Chapter 2100. At Blessed Buddha Temple's headquarters, Heavenly Spirit Mountain, a group of higher-ups had decided to be frank, no longer beating around the bush. They directly stated that they wanted to snatch Oshi's Sacred Ground's immortal pills and capture Yi Qinghan alive. The Lord of Blessed Buddha was silent for a long time. The slightest mistake in this plan would offend many sacred grounds. The most important one was Sky-Piercing Church. Not only could Sky-Piercing Church be on par with Blessed Buddha Temple, they could even crush them. Moreover, Yi Qinghan had an eternal saint backing him. Although he wasn't sure if he was a great saint, but with Sky-Piercing Church, crushing Blessed Buddha Temple wouldn't be a problem. Moreover, if they failed, would Oshi's Sacred Ground sit idly by? The Lord of Blessed Buddha's consideration was the most extensive, his wise eyes emitting Buddhist light. If we fail, Blessed Buddha Temple is finished. If we succeed, Blessed Buddha Temple will have at least 2 more immortal pills, which means 2 eternal saints. The Lord of Blessed Buddha muttered to himself. 2 more trusted eternal saints, such a coveted ending. Inside Blessed Buddha Temple's hall, everyone was silent, waiting for the Lord of Blessed Buddha to make the final decision. This Buddha definitely cannot act. How confident are you in wiping out that group of people without leaving any traces behind? The Lord of Blessed Buddha asked indifferently. Once they acted, Blessed Buddha Temple's cultivation method must not work, otherwise, they would become unreasonable. Thousand-Hand Buddha's eyes flashed coldly. He bowed and said, "Master, let's use our trump cards. Once we're done, we'll wipe them out. As for us, we're all willing to sacrifice our lives for you. You can rest assured." Buddha's face was poisonous to the heart. Which one of them wasn't like that? The Lord of Blessed Buddha thought about it and nodded. "All right, then we'll use our trump cards. They'll be responsible for killing, you'll be responsible for the aftermath. There can't be a single mistake, otherwise, Blessed Buddha Temple will be in danger." On that day, more than 100 black-robed men walked out of Heavenly Spirit Mountain. They were all upper-level cultivators with terrifying combat strength. Their faces were unfamiliar, they had never been seen before. As soon as they stepped out of the secret realm, they put on black demonic masks, and the aura emanating from their bodies was definitely not Buddhist chi, but an even more sinister poison art. If the demon Lord Fazhen was here, he would definitely be able to tell that it was similar to the 3 great demonic arts of the Sky Demon cult. These people had been trained by the Lord of Blessed Buddha. He had studied the Celestial Devil Lord's cultivation method and created the oddballs, but their strength was definitely not weak. After all, they were the products of the Eternal Saint. Any one of these people was stronger than an ordinary upper plane cultivator. Not even the Bloodstrike guards could compare to them. They were only slightly weaker than Zhang Yingshi. After receiving the order, they moved out quickly. Just half a day after they left, Thousand-Hand Buddha and the 7 high-level immortal Buddhas moved out as well. They formed the second column. Even if 1 or 2 of Yi Qinghan's people managed to escape, they couldn't withstand the siege of 8 experts. At this time, Yi Qinghan and the rest of the 30-plus people had turned into adventurers. Every 30 to 50 days, they would change teams. Occasionally, they would turn into mercenaries. Their disguise was very good, but they were still in other people's territory. Every blade of grass and every tree was under the control of the Blessed Buddha Temple, let alone 30-plus people. Screech! The goshawk flew into the air and disappeared in a flash. It tailed them from afar. At most, it would follow them for 3 to 5 days before other birds took its place. Yi Qinghan's group crossed through many cities, big and small, thinking that they were flawless and no one could see through them. However, the people from Blessed Buddha Temple's headquarters had already grasped their whereabouts and were constantly mobilizing more than 100 men in black. The leader of the men in black looked a little old. His hair was gray and his skin was wrinkled. The hand holding the sword had thick skin and many calluses. It seemed that he had been cultivating swordsmanship for many years. Half a month later, a goshawk swooped down from the sky. In the blink of an eye, it appeared in front of the men in black. The leader of the men in black stretched out his hand. The goshawk landed on his arm. Its talons were wrapped in a bamboo scroll with a piece of paper hidden inside. The leader took out the paper and flipped it open. His black eyes under the mask flashed as he stared at the small line of words on the paper. Black Wind Stockade, Tech. Exterminate all of them. The paper turned into fine powder and scattered with the wind, leaving no trace behind. Head to Black Wind Stockade. The leader's voice was cold and emotionless, like a robot. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. More than 100 experts crossed the city. Using the transportation formation, it only took them 5 days to reach Black Wind Stockade before Yi Qinghan and the rest. The Black Wind stronghold couldn't be considered bandits. They only collected tolls and didn't kill. Strictly speaking, they belonged to the Blessed Buddha Temple. Unfortunately, their fate came to an end when more than 100 black-clothed men arrived. Kill, leave no one alive. The leader said indifferently. The divine sword was unsheathed, killing without spilling blood. How could the small fries resist? They didn't even have a chance to resist before dying. The corpses were quickly moved away, leaving no trace behind. In the middle of the night, they entered Black Wind Stockade and began to reap the lives inside. Blood flowed like a river. The large Black Wind Stockade had nearly 1,000 people, but in one night, all of them died. The corpses were piled up in the mountains. The first team will disguise themselves as normal bandits and set up camp in the valley that they have to pass through. The second and third teams will set up camp in the deep mountains on the left side of the valley. The fourth and fifth teams will hide in the valley on the right side. The seventh and eighth teams will block the exit. The ninth and 10th teams will spread out in all directions of the entrance. Stay a little further away and let them enter the Black Wind stronghold. Each team had 10 people, a total of 111. Everyone quickly took up their positions. The Black Wind Stockade was so quiet that it made one's hair stand on end. The sky was dotted with stars and the moon shone down. The scenery was like a fairyland, very alluring. At this time, Yi Qinghan's group was only half a day's journey from Black Wind Stockade. However, they were hired and had to enter Black Wind Stockade. The Blessed Buddha Temple had long since learned of this. They didn't travel very fast, moving at the normal speed of a mercenary. Hundreds of carriages carried many treasures, rushing day and night. They only stopped to rest when they were tired. The employer was an old man, 2 middle-aged men, and a young girl. Judging from their clothing, they were a family. Their cultivation wasn't weak. Commander Yi, should we rest for a day before entering Black Wind Stockade? The old man kindly reminded. Yi Qinghan looked at the old man and asked calmly. Briefly introduce Black Wind Stockade. I'm not familiar with this place. Black Wind Stockade is the intersection between the Blessed Buddha Temple and the Xiaoho Sacred Land. They only collect tolls and rarely clash with mercenary groups. However, we have a lot of goods. I think it's better to be careful, the old man said in a low voice. Yi Qinghan looked at the sky. They should be able to reach Black Wind Stockade before daybreak. Since Black Wind Stockade had never clashed with mercenary groups before, and they were going to enter during the day, the probability of conflict was low. Even if a conflict did occur, they had more than 30 upper realm cultivators. Once they entered the Xiaoho Sacred Land, the Blessed Buddha Temple would no longer be a threat. The Xiaoho Sacred Land has a good relationship with the Battle Clan. We have a good relationship with the Battle Clan as well. Therefore, let's enter the Xiaoho Sacred Land as soon as possible. No more rest, let's hurry, Yi Qinghan decided. They rushed to Black Wind Stockade under the cover of the night. When daybreak came, the mountain range of Black Wind Stockade came into view. Chapter 2101. The sky had just brightened, and there were very few pedestrians in the Heifeng stronghold. Birds flew through the air and pounced on the ground, hunting for their favorite food. Yi Qinghan didn't care about the few pedestrians passing by. He escorted the carriage with more than 30 masters and 30-odd coachmen, and they quickly came to a place not far from the Heifeng stronghold. Vigilant, he finally found something wrong. Yi Qinghan waved his hand to stop the carriage. He saw that there were more than 10 powerful masters of the upper plains scattered on both sides of the Heifeng stronghold. They looked a bit like adventurers, but they didn't have much killing intent. He slowly spread out his divine sense and felt that there were some people whose cultivation was vague. He couldn't grasp them at all. Are there many masters in the Heifeng stronghold? Yi Qinghan frowned and asked. The old employer often took this route, so he was very familiar with the Haifeng stronghold. He nodded and said, "There are many masters in the Haifeng stronghold. They have accumulated a lot of wealth and resources over the years, so they have many masters of the upper plane." Yi Qinghan touched his nose. He wasn't sure if these people were from the Haifeng stronghold, so he rested on the plains outside the valley for about 2 hours. The number of pedestrians gradually increased. They were all people who often traveled between the two holy lands. Yi Qinghan observed them for a while and found that they didn't have any special expressions. He waved his hand and said, "Let's go while there are many people." Hiya. The coachman rushed the tamed ferocious beasts quickly to the valley. Yi Qinghan and the others guarded the carriage like an ordinary mercenary group. They had more than 30 masters, which was the best anywhere. They were confident that the Haifeng stronghold couldn't stop them. However, everyone's hands were holding their divine weapons, especially Lin Wutian. The hilt of his sword was out of the scabbard. His eyes were like swords, looking deep into the valley. "Master, something is wrong. Shouldn't the people who are blocking the road be a group of small fries? Why don't these people look like them?" Lin Wutian frowned and looked at the people in the distance. They were dressed very plainly. Although they hid their cultivation, their temperament didn't change. These people's cultivation was definitely not bad. Yi Qinghan was silent for a while before he said in a low voice, "Everyone, be alert. I also feel that something is wrong." Although his voice was low, more than 30 people heard him. Saint took out the scepter of power. His golden eyes flashed as he followed Lin Wutian closely. Hum. The flute on Yi Qinghan's waist suddenly vibrated, producing a crisp sound as if it had sensed a murderous intent. At this moment, the entrance to the back was blocked. The experts who had been wandering around all surrounded them and quickly closed in. The tamed ferocious beast felt threatened and quickly rushed forward. In the blink of an eye, it had reached the hinterland. In all directions, at least 80 to 90 black-clothed men appeared. They all wore demonic masks, and cold killing intent filled the air. The adventurers and merchants who were still in the Valley of Black Wind's stronghold were all stunned. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Whoosh. In an instant, the group of black-clothed men didn't attack Yi Qinghan and the others. Instead, they quickly killed the other innocent people. Yi Qinghan's yin and yang Bagua Taoist robe quickly recovered and he held it in his hand. His divine sense covered all directions, and everything within 100 miles was under his control. He found a white-haired old man holding a demonic bow. The aura he exuded was actually stronger than Zhang Yingshir's. "Be careful. They are all experts," Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. The aura of the white-haired old man holding the demonic bow could be inferred that his strength was definitely comparable to the 3 deans of sky-reaching cult. Coupled with the support of the demonic bow, his strength was far beyond the 3 deans. That's the demonic bow of the heavenly demon cult. They are from the heavenly demon cult? Saint was shocked. "Princess, they aren't from the heavenly demon cult. Their aura isn't the traditional demonic art of the heavenly demon cult. However, that is a genuine heavenly demon bow, an eternal sacred tool. We will escort you out of the encirclement. Once you escape, don't look back. Just run." An old man from the Oshi sacred ground quickly said. 32 people quickly surrounded Saint, fearing that she would have an accident. 111 black-clothed men all stood out and surrounded Yi Qinghan and the others. Before they could open their mouths and reveal their identities, the other party held a crossbow and shot randomly. More than 30 coachmen were killed, and the rest of the crossbow bolts were shattered. "Sirs, this old man is the steward of the Shangguan noble clan in the Xiaohou sacred ground. This old man often passes by this place with the 2 young masters. The Black Wind stronghold has a very good relationship with us. Is there some misunderstanding?" The old man's face was pale. He protected the 2 middle-aged men and the little girl behind him as he spoke in a low voice. But the group of black-clothed men didn't say a word. Beneath the mask, the gray-haired old man's face didn't show any emotion. He slowly drew his sky demon bow, and the black bolts on the crossbow were aimed at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He clenched his fists and stared at the old man with white hair. He took a defensive stance and said in a low voice, "The two protectors of the heavenly demon cult and I have a good relationship. Are you from the heavenly demon cult? If you are, please open the path. Just tell me what you want. I want your lives." The gray-haired man's voice was exceptionally cold and hoarse. His deep voice was vast and mighty. He then said, "Kill. Leave no one alive." Boom! The heavenly demon arrow left the bowstring and destroyed everything in its path like a bolt of lightning. It reached Yi Qinghan in the blink of an eye. Boom! Yi Qinghan's veins bulged as he slashed the tip of the heavenly demon arrow. The two terrifying auras instantly shattered all the carriages. Even the treasures in the carriages were turned into powder. What was even more terrifying was that the attack was dozens of times stronger. It directly sent the people of the Oshi Holy Land flying and their formation was completely disrupted. Bam bam bam. Boom boom boom. Yi Qinghan retreated dozens of steps. The footprints under his feet were as deep as a finger. His wrist was shaken and a trace of shock appeared in his eyes. He trembled violently and let out a long roar. The gray-haired old man was also shocked. He didn't expect that the arrow from the heavenly demon bow didn't seriously injure Yi Qinghan and only made him retreat more than 10 steps. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Boom boom boom. 110 black-clothed experts shot out tens of thousands of arrows at the same time, flooding the valley. Many arrows pierced through the mountain rocks and shot into the mountain. Some of the sharp arrows pierced through the experts' armor and slightly scratched their skin, causing waves of miserable screams and angry roars. Extreme poison. There's poison. Don't let the arrows touch you. Yar Sheng was shocked and loudly reminded. Whoosh. Whoosh. Another sharp arrow pierced through the employer and killed the girl behind him. She didn't even keep her body. The terrified expression on her face before she died ruined her beautiful temperament. "My son." A middle-aged man screamed and rushed to catch the girl's broken bones. Unfortunately, there was no hope of saving her. Lin Wutian unsheathed his sword and pierced the clouds. The sword light shot straight into the sky and the sword chi swept across. It directly raised a mountain to the ground and killed its way into the depths. Yi Qinghan held the heavenly demon sword and took a deep breath. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised and killing intent rose. "No matter who you are, you will stay here today." Yi Qinghan growled and the aura on his body changed abruptly. The heavenly demon's sword in his hand dissipated. He had used the sacred finger of destruction. The airflow in his body surged strangely and affected the momentum of heaven and earth. Chapter 2102. Whoosh! The spiritual chi between heaven and earth surged, forming a huge 5-finger print under the sky. The index finger stretched out and fell from the sky, crushing the space and everything, pressing toward the gray-white man in black. Yi Qinghan had only used 1/10,000th of the power of the finger of destruction. Even so, it had drained all his power in an instant. Boom! Boom! The gray-white man in black's eyes were full of fear and shock. He drew the bow and shot toward the sky, hoping to shatter Yi Qinghan's attack. Whoosh! Boom! The heavenly demon arrow shattered the void, but it did not shatter the finger. The two sides collided, and the airwaves swept thousands of miles, forming a huge halo. Run! At the moment Yi Qinghan exploded, Lin Wutian felt a terrifying power. He couldn't resist it. So, before the finger pressed down, Lin Wutian took the Yar Holy Dynasty and fled. He moved 300 miles. The more than 30 people from the Oshi sacred ground were only a step too late. They were blown away by the terrible aftermath and coughed up blood. Boom! The heavenly demon arrow shattered. The finger was unstoppable, destroying everything. It directly wiped out the Black Wind Stockade. The team led by the leader of the men in black, a total of 11 people, were all wiped out. Not even their bones were left. Only the heavenly demon bow was smashed into the depths of the ground. But after all, it was an eternal sacred weapon, and there was no damage. The aftermath crushed the first and second teams in the middle, and they did not even have a chance to escape. In the blink of an eye, 31 of the 111 men in black, including the leader, died. The scope of the aftermath was too wide. 2 more teams were seriously injured, and more than half of the men in black were killed. Boom! Yi Qinghan did not stand firm. He panicked and almost fell to the ground. The violent strike in his hand pierced the ground. He held the hilt of the violent strike. His skin was cracked, and all the spiritual qi in his body had been sucked out. The light in his eyes dimmed, and blood flowed from the corners of his mouth and wrists. He had no choice but to use this attack. Otherwise, these 100 or so people would be enough to crush them twice. Rather than waiting until all of his people were dead before using it, it was better to use the ultimate killing move from the beginning. This way, he could preserve his people's strength. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Yi Qinghan gasped for breath. Although his soul was exhausted, he still pulled out a xenogenic immortal peach from his storage ring and swallowed it. A large amount of spiritual energy surged out of his body like waves, crashing against his physical body. The bottleneck of the upper level loosened and he almost reached the upper level. But for some reason, the heaven-imprisoning Tao scripture suppressed the bottleneck and prevented him from breaking through. At this moment, more than 10 people rushed in from the exit. Their divine swords pierced through the void as they closed in on Yi Qinghan. Their sword qi tore through the void, shaking their Taoist robes and causing their black hair to fly in all directions. Yi Qinghan could only watch helplessly as the crowd rushed over. He had no chance to dodge or resist. He could only resign himself to fate. A green lotus appeared in the sky and a long song filled the air. A divine sword pierced through the clouds and pierced through the clouds. It was even faster than lightning. Green Lotus Sword Song. Lin Wutian acted as if he didn't care about his life anymore. He didn't care whether he was exposed or not. His sword trembled slightly, and the sword qi formed the shape of a fan. Then, it wrapped around the dozen people who were rushing towards him. Boom! The divine swords in the hands of more than 10 people collided with the sword qi. Surprisingly, they did not break Lin Wutian's sword qi. Instead, the divine swords in their hands were shattered. Roar! Bang! More than 10 divine swords shattered at the same time. The divine sword in Lin Wutian's hand also shattered. Their divine swords could not withstand the power of the Green Lotus Sword Song. However, Lin Wutian's sword managed to block their attack. He waved his hand and took out a wooden sword to block in front of Yi Qinghan. He looked down at the crowd. Whoosh! At this moment, Yar Saint led 10 people to attack from behind. They fought side by side with Lin Wutian and drew their swords. Whoosh! The scepter of power emitted a monstrous light. Within the light was Yar Saint's territory, which spread for dozens of miles. However, the territory's power was very limited. Moreover, the experts in the territory were stronger than Yar Saint, so she could only suppress 10% of the cultivation of this group of people. I am the Holy Virgin of the Oshi Holy Ground. How dare you? Are you declaring war on the Oshi Holy Ground? Yar Saint rebuked angrily, hoping that this group of people would retreat voluntarily. There were still more than 50 black-robed people who could fight again. However, 3 of the Oshi Holy Ground's people had been hit by the aftermath and lost the ability to fight again. There were still 20 people blocking the group of black-robed people behind them. Yar Saint and Lin Wutian led 10 people to fight against 30 black-robed people. Although the black-robed people were leaderless, they knew that their goal was to destroy everyone here. Therefore, they were unwilling to leave. At this moment, Yi Qinghan opened his tired eyes and said hoarsely, Wutian, we can't let this group of people leave alive. We can't let the cultivation method we just used be exposed. The Green Lotus Sword Song could not be exposed. The Saint Destroyer Finger could not be exposed either. Then let's kill them. Lin Wutian roared and unsheathed his wooden sword. Green light shone in the sky as he charged into the crowd. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One person was equivalent to 10 people. When he used the Green Lotus Sword Song, the wooden sword's power doubled. In the blink of an eye, he killed a black-robed person who had no weapon. The people behind them had also begun to fight. Blood stained the sky. It was a battle between the upper-level experts. Experts were constantly falling, including the black-robed people and the experts of the Oshi Holy Ground. Yar Saint urged the holy light to suppress the black-robed people. He did not rush to kill them. Instead, he stood not far in front of Yi Qinghan. Even if someone broke through your saint's attack, he would be blocked for a moment by your saint. Lin Wutian's 10 experts were at a disadvantage against the 30 black-robed people. Therefore, the people of the Oshi holy ground kept falling. After a while, more than half of them were dead or injured. Only 5 people were left. However, Lin Wutian was extremely powerful. Although the sword in his hand was only a wooden sword, it was an eternal divine tool. The wooden sword pierced the throat of an expert. Not even a drop of blood spilled. The corpse fell deep into the mountains. Yi Qinghan closed his eyes and restored his strength. His divine power was surging. If he did not restore his strength to its peak state, there would be sequelae. Therefore, he did not dare to act rashly. Seeing the experts of the Oshi holy ground falling, only one of the 10 experts who had supported Lin Wutian was left. They were all fighting with their lives on the line. As a result, the death of the upper-level experts was as cheap as cabbages. Mountains and rivers were shattered, mountains were razed to the ground, and more than half of the traces of the holy finger of destruction were erased. Yi Qinghan was not in a hurry. As long as Yar Saint and Lin Wutian were fine, this group of people had better die. Otherwise, he would personally kill them. This was because he did not trust the people of the Oshi holy ground. Once they informed the great saint of the Oshi holy ground, his trip would be in danger. Yi Qinghan had always followed the principle of killing his friends. The holy light swam around the golden body. Yi Qinghan gradually opened his eyes. Terrifying light surged as he looked at the battle in front of him. Only Lin Wutian was still resisting, and the man from the Oshi holy ground had been surrounded. That expert from the Oshi holy ground screamed miserably as he fell from the sky. His body had been shattered. Yi Qinghan went berserk. His aura leaked out. He held the berserk blade in his hand and rushed into the crowd. He did not need to defend at all. He raised his blade and slashed. His momentum was unstoppable. With one slash, a divine sword was cut in half. Even the body of the black-robed man was cut in half. Chapter 2103. The Black Wind's stronghold was stained with blood. The masters were wiped out, and the corpses were shattered by the aftermath. The abyss created by the sacred finger was filled, but it sank again. Whoosh! Lin Wutian had killed 16 people with his sword alone. His bloody clothes fluttered in the air, and the killing range of the green light sword was far greater than that of the upper plane. 10 people from the Oshi Holy Land killed 6 of the black-robed men and severely injured 3 of them. 5 or 6 of them were killed by Yi Qinghan and Lin Wutian in the blink of an eye. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand, and the Sky Demon Bow appeared in his hand. The Sky Demon Bow was attracted by Yi Qinghan's aura and did not resist. A faint demonic aura was attached to the golden body, and the pressure was terrifying. At this time, the 20 people from the Oshi Holy Land were fighting with the 20 black-robed men in the rear. They had suffered heavy casualties, and the battle was even more intense. The two sides were evenly matched. At this time, less than half of them were still fighting. 17 of them had died, and 7 of them were sitting cross-legged on the ground to recover from their injuries. The 16 people were still fighting, but they were all covered in blood and more or less injured. Yar Saint was furious. He rushed to the rear with the Staff of Power in his hand, mobilizing his domain to suppress the black-robed men's strength. At the same time, he suppressed 30% of their strength. Just when the people from the Oshi Holy Land had the upper hand, a powerful black-robed man chose to self-destruct. The Oshi Holy Land and the black-robed men, who were originally seriously injured, were all killed by the aftermath. Even Yar Saint, who was on the periphery, was directly blasted hundreds of miles away. Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes at the center of the battlefield. There were less than 10 people who could stand up now. There were only 3 people from the Oshi Holy Land left, and they were all seriously injured. Wu Yan, try to exhaust them all, including the people from the Oshi Holy Land. We can't trust anyone, Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Lin Wutian understood and nodded secretly. He quickly killed the other black-robed men. When the black-robed man saw Yi Qinghan and Lin Wutian's strength, he knew that this mission had failed. He only wanted to kill all the Oshi Holy Lands people, so he directly rushed towards the 3 severely injured Oshi Holy Lands experts. Yi Qinghan looked at the other black-robed men who were rushing towards the 3 from Oshi Holy Land. Instead of helping them, he went to kill the other black-robed men, causing the 3 experts from Oshi Holy Land to die on the spot. However, the 2 black-clothed experts who had blocked Lin Wutian's attack were killed on the spot. Even their souls didn't manage to escape. There didn't seem to be any wounds on their bodies, but they still fell to the ground. The 3 black-clothed men who had blocked Yi Qinghan's path were not in a good state either. They had forcibly resisted Yi Qinghan's most powerful strike without using any technique. They had almost been annihilated by his strike, and had been sent flying backward. Just then, Yarsheng and Lin Wutian, who had rushed over, had casually attacked and killed them all. In the blink of an eye, 5 experts had been eliminated. There were 5 black-clothed men left, but Yi Qinghan's group only had 3 people left. Whoosh! Lin Wutian's sword seized the air, and his aura was like a rainbow. The huge divine sword formed by the sword energy was impossible to resist. It directly defeated the joint force of the 5 black-clothed men, and the expert in front of him was directly destroyed. Boom! Yi Qinghan's blade struck the black-clothed man who had been sent flying backward and smashed him directly into the ground. The man didn't even have a chance to say a word. His face was ferocious, and his body was distorted. The vitality in his body had been shattered. Yarsheng focused on dealing with a black-clothed man who was in a sorry state and quickly killed another. In the blink of an eye, there were only 2 black-clothed men left. Whoosh! The 2 black-clothed men quickly fled in 2 different directions, no longer lingering in the battle. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and took out a demonic bow. He condensed his divine power and formed a demonic arrow. He aimed at the back of one of the experts, and the bowstring tore through the void. Whoosh! Kakaka! The demonic arrow pierced through the void and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Then, the space collapsed, and a bloody mist exploded in the distant sky. On the other side, Lin Wutian was one with his sword. He cut through the clouds, and his speed was 2 or 3 times faster than the other black-clothed man. His divine sword tore through the man's golden body. Whoosh! Lin Wutian returned. His face was normal and his breathing was calm. But his body was still bleeding. Clearly, the blood on his body wasn't just the enemy's. Much of it was his own. Yi Qinghan took out a dozen xenogenic immortal peaches and a few thousand high-tier sacred medicines. He tossed them to Lin Wutian and coldly said, "If you're not badly injured, use the high-tier sacred medicines. If you're badly injured, use the xenogenic immortal peaches. Heal up and leave quickly. I want to destroy all traces of what happened here." Lin Wutian took the immortal peaches and high-tier sacred medicines. He quickly swallowed a sacred medicine, and a moment later, he was as good as new. He took Yarsheng and retreated 300 miles. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and put away the sky demon Bao and berserk Sheng. He crossed his hands and mobilized his divine power. Scales began to grow on his skin. Roared! Yi Qinghan roared to the sky. He used the dragonization style, and his body turned into a dragon. It soared into the sky and circled continuously. The 9 revolutions of the heavenly dragon style was an emperor-level secret art. But in Yi Qinghan's hands, it could unleash the power to destroy an upper-level cultivator. The head of the heavenly dragon swooped down from the sky and rushed down from the top of the vortex. The power of the sky and the earth collided and gathered in the middle. The fierce collision shattered the void, and the shockwaves swept out for nearly 1,000 miles. The Black Wind's stronghold was completely wiped out. As for the corpses, they were all reduced to dust. The aura of the battle above, the green lotus sword Qi, and the aura of the sacred finger were all reduced to dust. Yi Qinghan was still worried that all traces had been wiped out. He waved his hand and took out the sky demon Bao. He shot wildly, and demonic Qi filled the sky. Then he returned to the Xiahou sacred land. Our saint and Lin Wutian had already entered the Xiahou sacred land. The 3 of them met at the intersection and quickly rushed to the center of the Xiahou sacred land. Not long after the 3 of them left, the 1,000-hand Buddha and 7 powerful Buddhas appeared at the site of the Black Wind stronghold. They looked at the stronghold in front of them. There was no trace left. There were no corpses, no bloodstains. The aura of the sky demon Bao and Yi Qinghan was everywhere. Did they perish together? The thousand-hand Buddha asked in surprise. Impossible. The aura of the sky demon Bao was very strong. It means that the leader of the foundation, Tai He, is not dead. He is not even seriously injured. But where is he? An immortal Buddha looked at the destructive power around him and was shocked. He felt that this was not a battle between upper-level cultivators. It was as if someone who was about to become a saint had participated. But Yi Qinghan's aura is also very strong. It means that Yi Qinghan has also escaped. The mission has failed, the thousand-hand Buddha said with certainty. Immortal Buddha Taishen, quickly go back and inform my master. We will continue the chase. If we find anything, just follow. Don't act rashly. It is not suitable for us to act. Amitabha. There is no time to lose. Everyone do your job. This mission is not trivial. Do not let your guard down, the leader of the group, Immortal Buddha Taishen, said in a deep voice. Whoosh! The 8 of them separated. Immortal Buddha Taishen rushed back to the blessed Buddha temple while the thousand-hand Buddha led the group to the Xiaoho sacred land. Chapter 2104. The Xiaoho sacred land was located in the Gobi Desert, covered by tropical rainforests. Due to the scarcity of resources, there were few experts and few cities. However, once a city appeared, it would cover tens of thousands of li, forming a huge city. The area was difficult and sparsely populated. As soon as the 3 entered the desert, the air was distorted by the heat waves. The sky stretched as far as the eye could see, and there was no shelter at all. Even so, once they entered the desert, the distorted space concealed their position. An hour later, looking into the distance, he was nowhere to be seen. Thousand-hand Buddha appeared at the periphery of the desert with a few high-level immortal Buddhas. He looked around. The heat waves had swept away their auras, leaving no trace behind. They didn't know how to find them. They only have 2 paths. One is west, heading straight to the hinterland of the Xiaoho sacred land. The other is north, heading straight to the middle west of the battle race, then to the northwest of the martial Dao sage sacred land. However, this is a long detour. Gong Wusheng stared at the 2 paths, unsure of which path Yi Qinghan would choose. They didn't know Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan would never waste a lot of time because of danger. Therefore, they headed west for thousands of li. Yi Qinghan brought the 2 with him. With fewer people, it was easier for them to hide. After what happened at Blessed Buddha Temple, they didn't dare to trust anyone. After all, the immortal Dan was too important. It was enough for the other sacred lands to have ideas. Let's travel at our peak speed and rest for 3 days a month. Yi Qinghan tossed out a few words, then used stellar transposition to shatter space. Lin Wutian flew on his sword with Yar Sheng in hot pursuit. His speed was actually able to keep up with Yi Qinghan's. His green lotus celestial steps had already reached great success in seizing the heavens. The 3 traveled more than 100,000 li in a day, passing through several cities in a month. They successfully entered the hinterland. Their bodies were covered in mud, their spirits were low, and their souls were weak. The Xiaoho ancient capital is ahead. It's the ancestral land of the Xiaoho clan. Although it's not rich in resources, it's very prosperous. Let's rest for 3 days. Although Yarshing wasn't tired, he could tell that Lin Wutian and Yi Qinghan were tired. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. They had traversed several deserts and 3 cities in the past month. Presumably, no one here knew of their identities, so he nodded in agreement. Rest for 3 days after entering the Xiaoho ancient capital. Adjust your condition before continuing, Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. As far as the eye could see, there were scattered villages everywhere. The deeper one went, the denser the villages, and the more experts there were. These are all subsidiary villages. Right now, there's only one village every few kilometers. Soon, we'll see large villages surrounding the entire Xiaoho ancient capital. There are countless of them. Yarshing was very familiar with this place. He had walked this path countless times. Yi Qinghan did not even bother to look for treasures as he hurried along. He asked curiously, "Is there anything special about this place?" Puzzled, Yar asked, "What's so special about it?" "It's a rather mysterious place where you can search for treasures and explore," Yi Qinghan said. Yar Sheng shrugged and replied, "The most mysterious place is the place where Saint Xiahou obtained his opportunity. It's a small mystic realm, but I've been there before. There's nothing special about it. Everyone wants to obtain the opportunity of a saint and thinks that they're special. So, one after another, countless experts spend hundreds of thousands to explore the mystic realm every 10 years. The Xiahou clan had made a fortune from collecting entrance tickets. They collected a few hundred million yuan every 10 years. 80% was handed over, and the remaining 20% was given to the Xiahou clan. They never lacked resources. Yi Qinghan rubbed his nose and did not say much. If it was really the place where Saint Xiahou obtained his opportunity, there must be something extraordinary about it. Therefore, he wanted to enter and give it a try. Whoosh, the three of them sped up. After half an hour, they arrived outside the Xiahou ancient capital. The city walls towered into the clouds, majestic and vast. They had experienced countless years of history, and the traces of history had been carved by wind and frost. The pressure of a saint slowly spread out. After all, this was the birthplace of a saint. It was blessed by heaven, earth, and people. This city was almost comparable to a saint. As long as a saint did not fall, the city would not die. The three of them disguised themselves in a small mountain outside the city. Yi Qinghan disguised himself as a bearded man. Lin Wutian did not change much, but he looked more mature. Yar Sheng restrained the golden light in her eyes and dyed her hair black. She looked somewhat similar to an Eastern woman. The three of them looked at each other and smiled. After disguising themselves, no one would be able to discover their identities as long as they did not pay special attention. Let's enter the city and rest for a few days. Let's see if we can enter the mystic realm in advance. Yi Qinghan said faintly, "My identity is Qin Fenghua from Fire Beacon City. Wutian is Qin Xianluo. Miss Yar Sheng, you can pretend to be Qin Xuanluo's wife. With a reasonable identity, it will be easier to hide your identity." Yar Sheng and Lin Wutian chose to obey unconditionally. They followed Yi Qinghan into the city. Yar Sheng was very familiar with the place. He acted as the host and explained the ruins and history of the Xiahou ancient capital to Yi Qinghan and Lin Wutian. The three of them browsed around for a day and finally found an inn near the mountain and water. After washing up, the three of them went downstairs again and sat down by a window near the lake. "Why are there so many people here recently?" Yar Sheng asked curiously. "Is the mystic realm about to open again?" Yi Qinghan and Lin Wutian naturally didn't know, but the people at the nearby table saw Sage Yar's fair and handsome face and immediately chimed in, "Looks like the three of you came from afar. Recently, the ancient capital isn't just about to open a small secret realm. I heard that the second-in-command of the Xiahou family is coming to the Xiahou ancient capital to preach. As long as you're in the ancient capital, you can go and listen. This is a great opportunity." The second-in-command of the Xiahou sacred land was second only to the eternal saint. Yar Sheng's eyes narrowed and he hurriedly transmitted, "The second-in-command of the Xiahou sacred land, Xiahou He, is a low-key old man. He's a bit like the chess sage. He's spent countless years comprehending the Tao and rarely appears in public. He's only made a move twice, and each time, it was earth-shattering. Even the eternal saint was alerted." Yi Qinghan was shocked. Someone like that was taking the initiative to preach the Tao. "Fellow Taoist, when will old Master Xiahou of the Xiahou sacred land be here? When will the mystic realm open?" Yi Qinghan couldn't help but ask with a smile when he saw a young man at the next table drink until his face was red. It seemed like he wanted to curry favor with Yar Sheng. The red-faced young man laughed heartily and said, "I don't know when old Master Xiahou will be here. After all, it depends on his mood. However, the mystic realm will open in a few days. It seems like he's waiting for someone. Otherwise, it would have opened long ago." Yi Qinghan smiled faintly and took a sip of wine. He didn't say anything else. However, the young man kept staring at Yar Sheng. He drooled and asked, "I am a disciple of the Divine Sword sect, one of the 3,000 strongest sections. May I know where the three of you are from? Can you give me some face and let me, Li Xiun, treat the three of you to a drink? Yi Qinghan shook his head and said indifferently, there's no need for that. We've only met by chance and are acquaintances. We haven't reached the stage of drinking yet. Yi Qinghan rejected the other party's offer without any trace of politeness. The Divine Sword Sect's disciple's expression immediately changed. He whispered, "You're not even giving face to the Divine Sword Sect." Chapter 2105. The young disciple of the Divine Sword Sect didn't seem to have a high status. Even if Yi Qinghan didn't give him face, he only dared to whisper but didn't dare to scold him loudly. Yi Qinghan smiled and ignored that person. However, as more and more people came, more and more experts came. They were all talking about the small secret realm and Xiaohe. The three of them didn't say much and listened quietly. Everyone was mocking the small secret realm and felt that the Xiaohe clan was deceiving the world. There was nothing worth exploring in that broken place, but they were only allowed to enter after paying so much every year. The more people said this, the more Yi Qinghan wanted to go in and see the small secret realm. Xiaohe Saint was born in a small family and didn't have any resources or foundation. He relied on the opportunity he obtained in the small secret realm to successfully step into the eternal saint realm. This meant that there must be something special about the small secret realm, but the world didn't find it and didn't have the opportunity. Yar Saint had entered the secret realm more than once. At this time, seeing Yi Qinghan's interest, he whispered, "There's really nothing to go in the small secret realm. A large number of experts enter every 10 years, but there's not even a high-grade sacred medicine. It's a barren land with scarce resources." Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently and didn't say anything. A few 100,000 was nothing to him. At least it satisfied his curiosity. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, Yi Qinghan brought the two of them back to their respective rooms. The exhaustion from the past few days had disappeared, and their souls were rapidly recovering. Yi Qinghan's soul had stabilized in the upper realm, but his body was still stuck in the complete middle realm. The bottleneck was protected by the prison Heavenly Tao scripture and couldn't be broken. The runes on the bottleneck were dazzling and difficult to understand. Yi Qinghan's consciousness wandered and comprehended these runes and mysteries. He found that they had a lot to do with the sacred finger of destruction. The power of the sacred finger of destruction he displayed was thousands of miles away from the first sacred finger of destruction. Is the problem with these runes and mysteries? Yi Qinghan sat upright and observed the runes with his consciousness. His 10 fingers formed a seal and evolved the sacred finger of destruction in his sea of consciousness. Whoosh! The little person in his sea of consciousness was like a nascent soul, vivid and lifelike. It looked exactly like him. Its aura was like a rainbow, and its might was monstrous. It formed a seal with its finger, wanting to destroy the heavens. The runes and mysteries at the bottleneck suddenly became clear at this moment. They subconsciously cooperated with Yi Qinghan's finger technique, but when he wanted to use them to cooperate with his finger technique, he was powerless. Is it because I'm not strong enough, or because I haven't fully comprehended the Saint Extermination finger and can't understand these mysteries and runes? Yi Qinghan frowned slightly. He closed his eyes and wrapped his consciousness around these mysterious runes, hoping to gain some insights and discoveries. Time flew by, and even he himself did not know how much time had passed. Several days later, bang bang bang. A few short knocks on the door woke Yi Qinghan up. He gently opened his eyes, and the look in his eyes was even more shocking. It was hard not to feel respect and fear. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and restrained his aura. He waved his hand and opened the door. Seeing Yar Sheng and Lin Wutian standing at the door, he asked lightly, "What's wrong?" Lin Wutian walked into the room and said respectfully, "Master, the little secret land has been open for 3 days, and you've been in seclusion for 8 days. I was afraid that it would delay your time to enter the little secret land, so I came to remind you." Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows. He felt that only 3 days had passed, but he did not expect that 8 days had passed. Crack, crack, crack. Yi Qinghan shook his body, and his bones cracked. It seemed that he had not moved for several days. "You two go out and wait for me for a while." Yi Qinghan got up and gestured for the two of them to leave. After a simple wash, he changed into a set of ink-black clothes. His tall and straight golden body exuded a majestic and domineering aura. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan walked out of the room and closed the door. He said to the two who were guarding him, "Let's go and have a look." The little secret land was located at the northwest border of the ancient Xiahou capital. At the moment, it was crowded with experts. Although everyone knew that there were no opportunities here, they still dreamed that one day, they would be able to obtain a saint-like opportunity. The Xiahou clan formed a law enforcement team. No one dared to act recklessly, so they could only queue up and enter. Not everyone can enter Xiahou Supreme's Dao preaching field. However, those who enter the little secret land have priority because they have the sincerity to prove their Dao. An elder of the Xiahou clan with fluttering white hair looked down at the crowd and said in a deep voice. Obviously, many people were here to watch the show. They did not intend to enter the little secret land. The Xiahou clan had issued a fake order to attract more people into the secret land. Xiahou He would never issue such an order. His temperament was similar to that of the chess saint. He did not like fame and wealth in the world. He only wanted to cultivate in a low profile, preach, and spread his own ideas. The Xiahou clan also wanted to make more money. That was why they used Xiahou He as a cover. However, Xiahou He did not know about it. Otherwise, they would have been severely punished. Yi Qinghan walked over from afar. Yarsheng and Lin Wutian reached out their hands. Their auras were restrained, making them look like ordinary people. They looked at the Xiahou clan elder and said, it seemed that they had to enter the little secret land if they wanted to hear Xiahou He's preaching. What a cunning old fox. Isn't he afraid that old Master Xiahou will be angry? Yarsheng scolded in a low voice. Yi Qinghan sneered. If it were him, he would have done the same. Why not make money when there was money to be made? Line up. Let's go in and have a look. Even if we can't get anything, it's worth it to hear Xiahou He's preaching, Yi Qinghan said faintly. The little secret land had been open for 3 days, but there were still so many people lining up. It was unknown how many experts had entered. It was probably like a market. It wasn't easy to get 3 people in line. They paid a lot of faith money to enter the secret land. When he saw the mystic realm, Yi Qinghan was stunned. There was nothing in front of him. Groups of 3 to 5 people quickly rushed into the depths of the mystic realm. However, after rushing for several hundred miles, the scene was still the same. Not to mention high-grade saintly medicines, even the grass had been plucked out. A barren land. This was a barren land. It was cleaner than a desert. There was not even a thorn. Is this a fucking secret land? Yi Qinghan cursed. Cough, cough. Yarsheng coughed twice and nodded. I didn't expect this place to become like this after so many years. When I came here before, there were still some weeds in the periphery. Lin Wutian was also speechless. If this was a small secret land, where else in the world wouldn't be a secret land? The Xiahou clan is too good at cheating people. This is clearly a scam. Lin Wutian sneered. I've reminded you. In fact, everyone has the same idea. They all think that they are outstanding and one in a million existence. Yarsheng said self-deprecatingly. She was also like that in the past. In fact, she only found out in the end that she had been tricked, and tricked several times. Yi Qinghan touched his nose, feeling that he had also been tricked. However, since he was already here, he had to take a look. Chapter 2106. It wasn't just Yi Qinghan. Everyone felt cheated. How was this a secret territory? It was clearly a barren land that even beasts wouldn't want to come here. Sheng, how many times have you come to such a place? I admire you. Yi Qinghan shook his head and walked deeper into the secret territory. Sheng was speechless after hearing Yi Qinghan's words. She had come here with the belief that she was a unique existence. She didn't know that she was just an ordinary person. Perhaps she had run out of opportunities here. The 3 of them walked in the secret territory in a low-key manner. They saw a group of people cursing. Hundreds of thousands of dollars had been wasted. Who would be happy? Yi Qinghan looked at the dejected group and couldn't help but smile. He restrained his depressed aura and quickened his pace. A day later, the three of them entered the heart of the secret territory. The secret territory wasn't big, but there were some spiritual medicine mountains in the depths. The low-level spirit beasts here were even worse than emperor-level spirit beasts. Yi Qinghan arrived in front of a waterfall with decent spirit qi. Looking around, he realized that this was the only place with decent spirit qi in the entire mystic realm. Lin Wutin stood with his sword and looked at the crystal-clear lake that extended to the shore. He found that the mountain on the opposite side seemed to be very regular. It didn't look like it was formed naturally. It looked more like it had been carved. It was just that it was a work of nature. Yi Qinghan and Ya Ershing didn't care about such details. However, Lin Wutin was an expert in sword techniques. He had a good grasp of every detail. Just as Yi Qinghan was about to leave, Lin Wutin jumped into the water and kept diving. After diving for 30 or 40 meters, he found that there was a layer of mud below. However, there weren't stones under the mud. Instead, there were some iron plates made of divine iron. Lin Wutin tried several times, but he couldn't break the iron plates. Instead, he swept up all the mud. The surface was muddy. Ya Ersheng and Yi Qinghan looked at the lake in confusion. They didn't know what Lin Wutin was trying to do. At this moment, Lin Wutin rushed up from the bottom of the water. His whole body was wet, but his face was full of excitement. He whispered, "There's something underwater. Although I don't know what it is, it shouldn't be bad." Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked suspiciously, "Are you having a stroke? If there really is something good, even if I can't find it, the divine bird should have found it. Even if the divine bird couldn't find it, the gold-devouring toad would have found it. I think you're hallucinating." Lin Wutin was speechless. He scratched his head and pointed to the muddy river. "Master, if you don't believe me, you can go down and have a look. Or you can look at the mountains on the other side." Yi Qinghan tried to tear the iron plate with gravity force, but the iron plate was as hard as an immortal material. There were a lot of runes engraved on it, but they were messy and disorderly, so he could not see anything. After a long time, Yi Qinghan suddenly felt a force behind him. He looked back and found Lin Wutin waving at him not far away. Yi Qinghan and Yar Sheng swam toward Lin Wutin at the same time. They found that he was stepping on a tab that was fastened to the iron plate. There were no cracks around it, so they did not know what the tab was for. "We can't pull up the whole iron plate, right?" Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. Lin Wutin did not pull the tab, afraid that it would cause some side effects. "This tab must be a mechanism. Let's pull it together," Yi Qinghan said telepathically. The tab was about 1 meter in diameter. Yi Qinghan grabbed the center and pulled it up like a willow tree. Yar Sheng and Lin Wutin helped on both sides, using their divine power to pull it up. Boom! Whoosh! Just as the three of them pulled the tab, the originally intact iron plate separated from the center of the river and sank down on its own. The mud and river water at the bottom of the river were instantly emptied. Without the pressure of the river water and mud, the runes on the iron plate quickly reformed and shone brightly, shocking the entire secret realm. The iron plate shrunk infinitely, forming a scripture that included all the runes and mysteries on the iron plate. Then the entire riverbed disappeared, and the stars moved. A wave of air swept through the secret realm. Everything changed, and the spiritual energy became abundant again. The immortals. The three of them stood on the ruins of the riverbed, which had now become a depression. There was no river water, and even the sculptures on the riverbank had disappeared. "Amazing! I have never seen a secret realm like this before," Yarsheng exclaimed. Yi Qinghan was also shocked. He looked at the scripture floating in the air and waved his hand to pick it up. He found that the words on the scripture were not the common language of eternal world, nor were they the words of other worlds. There was not even the slightest bit of similarity. This was a heavenly scripture. He could not recognize a single word. Chapter 2107. The heavenly book emitted a holy light that shook heaven and earth. Countless experts looked over. Before Yi Qinghan and the others could leave, they were surrounded by a sea of people. It was impossible for them to leave. They got the immortals. They got the sage's scripture. The roar shocked countless experts. They looked at Yi Qinghan and the others differently. They were filled with naked greed and desire, and murderous intent filled the air. Yi Qinghan and Lin Wutian were shocked. They stood in front of Yar Sheng, one holding a sword and the other holding a saber. They looked at the crowd coldly. Yi Qinghan's makeup had long been washed away by the river. He had regained his true appearance, but not many people knew him. After all, this place was too far away from his activities. Snatch it. It's the sage's scripture, someone said, stirring up the hearts of the people. Some violent experts could no longer endure and rushed forward. Bush, 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 boom, boom, boom. Saber light and sword shadows instantly surrounded Yi Qinghan. The destructive power tore through mountains, rocks, and riverbeds. Bush. Yi Qinghan's aura fluctuated. He mobilized his divine power to form a defensive boundary. Even with the support of his Taoist robe, he was bombarded by so many people and was forced to retreat dozens of steps. His face was pale. Bush, bush, bush. Clear footprints were engraved on the ground. The three of them retreated together. They did not want to fight this group of people. After all, there were too many of them. However, they were surrounded by experts. Even if some of them did not make a move, they were staring at the sage's scripture in Yi Qinghan's hands. Bush, boom. Light shone in all directions. The destructive power was not something a middle or upper-level expert could contend with alone. Even Xia Jiulong could not do anything about it. I'll resist. You think of a way to take your Xing away first. Yi Qinghan roared. His aura soared into the sky. Domineering aura filled his body. His long saber crossed the void and directly charged into the crowd. As soon as he entered the crowd, he was like a wolf in a flock of sheep. He was unstoppable and his aura was like a rainbow. Bush, bush. Boom! Yi Qinghan's long saber swept horizontally, cutting people and their weapons in half. However, there were too many people, and the long saber restrained his strength. He put away the long saber and used his fists and long legs to continuously break the divine weapons. His elbows directly smashed through their necks. Get lost. You don't even know me, so what are you trying to do? Yi Qinghan let out a furious roar. His energy soared to the heavens as he stomped his foot, shattering mountains and rivers. The earth cracked as the great abyss tore 1,000 li apart. He punched through an upper-level expert, causing the corpse to explode in the air. The shockwave swept out and sent the surrounding experts flying. Yi Qinghan was like a meat on a hot knife. Wherever he went, he would take a large number of lives. Blood flowed like a river. After killing for more than an hour, he forcibly tore open a hole and directly sent Lin Wutian and Saint out of the encirclement. His Taoist robe was dyed red with blood, making it even harder for people to recognize him. Who is he? Could it be Xia Jiulong? Impossible. I've seen Xia Jiulong before. He's definitely not Xia Jiulong. Everyone was constantly pushed back by Yi Qinghan. Every time he took a step forward, they would take 3 steps back. They didn't dare to resist. Yi Qinghan's blood surged. His eyes were like lightning as he glared at the crowd and sneered, Xia Jiulong is here. Today, he'll have to get out of my way. If you don't want to die, get lost. What an arrogant brat. How can an ant like you possess the saint scripture? Hand over the saint scripture and this old man will spare your life today. Just as everyone was hesitating, a powerful aura enveloped 1,000 li. Then, a white-haired old man with a transcendent aura appeared in front of everyone. His aura was actually comparable to Yi Qinghan's. Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes as he stared at the old man who suddenly appeared. He sneered and said, "Who do you think you are? You're just a person at the peak of the upper level. You want to snatch something from me? You should at least inquire about my identity before acting arrogant." How do you know who this old man is? The white-haired old man looked like a transcendent being, but in fact, he was a sinister villain who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. He was the sect master of the Xiaoho Sacred Grounds Earth-controlling sect. He had achieved great mastery in the earth element. Today, he came to the secret realm to meet Xiaoho He, hoping to get some guidance from her. Yi Qinghan sneered. His aura fluctuated and shook off all the blood on his Taoist robe. The yin-yang 8 trigrams Taoist robe appeared. His identity was obvious. I don't know who you are, but my identity should be much nobler than yours, Yi Qinghan said coldly. This? Everyone gasped. Although they didn't know Yi Qinghan, they would be ignorant if they didn't know about the yin-yang 8 trigrams Taoist robe. A true disciple of the sky-piercing immortal school. Isn't she supposed to be a beautiful fairy? Yeah, I think I remember her name is Fan Yin. How did the fairy become a man? Is it fake? Everyone was discussing and doubting Yi Qinghan's identity. However, Yi Qinghan had done a lot of earth-shattering things in recent years, especially during the heaven worship ceremony. Many people knew that even Xia Jiulong couldn't do anything to him. I know who he is. He's Yi Qinghan. He's an existence that couldn't defeat Xia Jiulong in 3 moves. Finally, a young genius recognized Yi Qinghan and said in shock. Yi Qinghan. Many people were familiar with this name, but they had never seen him in person. The sect master of the earth-controlling sect stared at Yi Qinghan. His eyes flashed. He wasn't afraid of Yi Qinghan, but he was afraid of the sky-piercing immortal school behind Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan raised the corner of his mouth and said disdainfully, "You know my identity. Do you still want me to take out the saint scripture? You want to steal my saint scripture? Do you think you can survive after reaching the saint's realm?" The sect master of the earth-controlling sect smiled awkwardly. He cupped his fists and said, "So it's a disciple of the sky-piercing immortal school. This old man is ashamed that he didn't know his own family. I'm the sect master of the earth-controlling sect, Huang Yun. I have a good relationship with Taoist Jiuji and Taoist Wensu. Don't worry, as long as I'm here today, no one will steal your saint's scripture." Looking at the old man's serious expression, Yi Qinghan snorted inwardly. However, since the old man had admitted defeat, there was no need for him to take things too far. It would be bad for him. After all, in the world of martial arts, it was better to have one more friend than one more enemy. So it's sect master Huang. This junior has been rude. Yi Qinghan cupped his fists and said indifferently. Huang Yun pretended to laugh and said, "Ha, you have a high status. You're a true disciple of the great sage. This old man doesn't dare to call you senior in front of you. Let's be friends of the same generation." Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently. He was very polite. Just as the two were exchanging pleasantries, the sky suddenly condensed. Time and space were imprisoned, and countless experts couldn't move. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He looked up into the distance and saw an ordinary old man walking over. His hair was as black as ink, and his face was like a mortal. He had experienced the vicissitudes of life, kindness, and kindness. Although he was powerful, he was somewhat approachable like the chess sage. Xiahou He. Yi Qinghan looked at this person's aura and instantly thought of someone. He couldn't help but look at Yarsheng. Yarsheng nodded repeatedly. She had seen Xiahou He before, so Xiahou He should also remember her. After all, she was the saintess of the Oshi Holy Land. Chapter 2108. Xiahou He stepped through the air. Although he seemed to be moving slowly, it took only the blink of an eye for him to appear in front of everyone. Huang Yun was also shocked. He hadn't expected Xiahou He to arrive at this time. He hurriedly bowed and said, "Junior Huang Yun of the Earth Control Sect greets Master Xiahou." Xiahou He nodded faintly, then looked at Yi Qinghan and Lin Wutan. "Greetings, Master Xiahou." Yi Qinghan and the other two bowed at the same time. In an instant, everyone fell to their knees. They'd entered the secret realm to see Xiahou He. How could they not be excited? "Greetings, Master Xiahou." Xiahou He nodded and waved a hand for everyone to rise. "Rise, all of you. There's no need to be so formal." "Many thanks, Master Xiahou." Everyone looked excited. They wanted nothing more than to throw themselves at Xiahou He and hug him, hoping for some guidance. However, Xiahou He's gaze never left Yi Qinghan and Yi. After a moment, he said calmly, "The 3 of you, come with me." With that, Xiahou He waved his hand and took the 3 away. His figure flashed and he left the secret realm. Moments later, he arrived at the most prosperous Xiahou ancestral grounds in the ancient capital. The 4 landed in a garden. Xiahou He walked into a pavilion and sat down, staring at the three. Junior Ye, greets Master Xiahou. The bowed respectfully. Junior Yi Qinghan, disciple of the Heavenspan sect's Heavenspan sage, greets Master Xiahou. Yi Qinghan pointed at Lin Wutian and introduced him. This child is my disciple, Lin Wutian. Lin Wutian hurriedly bowed and said, Junior greets Master Xiahou. Xiahou He looked at Ye and Yi Qinghan and said coolly, you two hold high positions. Since you're passing through the Xiahou sacred land, why don't you issue a customs clearance document? At the very least, let the Holy Land protect you as you leave. Otherwise, if something happens, whose responsibility is it? Yi Qinghan bitterly smiled. Senior, you don't know, but we haven't even sent out the official documents yet. We disguised ourselves as adventurers and mercenaries, and in just a few short decades, when we passed by the blessed Buddha Temple's Black Wind stronghold, we were ambushed. None of the 33 upper-level guardians of the Oshi Holy Land survived, so how could we dare to trust others? Who was Xiahou He? How could he not know that Yi Qinghan and Yar Saint were escorting the elixir to the Holy Land of Oshi? He was now about to become a sage. Everything was ready except for the east wind. If there was an elixir of immortality, it would be his east wind. He was looking forward to it the most. Xiahou He looked at Yi Qinghan and sighed. Sect Master Yi, I wonder if I could sell you an immortal pill? This old man is willing to pay any price. Immortal pills were extremely precious. That was the symbol of an eternal sage, a priceless treasure. Yi Qinghan didn't even consider it. He shook his head and said, It's not that I don't want to give you face, senior, but the elixirs have already been distributed. I don't have any left. How could Xiahou He not know that Yi Qinghan was talking nonsense? It was impossible to distribute all the immortal elixirs. Yi Qinghan must have 2 more immortal elixirs, but he didn't want to give them away. Xiahou He squeezed out a smile and said, Since Sect Master Yi doesn't want to give them up, I won't force you. However, since we're fated to meet today, it's also karma. If you have any questions about cultivation, feel free to ask me. I'll help you as much as I can. In a few days, I'll send someone to escort you out of the Xiahou Holy Land. Otherwise, I can't bear the responsibility if something happens. Yi Qinghan didn't want to sell his elixirs, so naturally he didn't want to accept any benefits. He could only nod repeatedly, but didn't ask any questions. After all, there were people behind him who could help him solve any problems. The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage, the Green Lotus Sword Immortal, and the Chess Supremacy were all far more powerful than Xiahou He. Xiahou He looked at Yi Qinghan and the others and said, In that case, this old man will make a deal with you. I can help you solve your questions. Sect Master Yi, can you let me take a look at the sage's scripture you just obtained? Yi Qinghan didn't recognize a single word of the sage's scripture. If it wasn't especially valuable, he would have thrown it away long ago. Therefore, when Xiahou He mentioned it, he offered it with both hands. The characters on the scripture had never been seen before. The mysterious runes were completely different from the other scriptures. It didn't look like the Tao scripture of imprisonment either. In Yi Qinghan's eyes, it was a pile of waste paper. Xiahou He took the scripture and frowned. He found that it was completely different from the scripture of the Xiahou Holy Land. There was no connection at all. Did you really get this in the secret realm? Xiahou He asked suspiciously. Yi Qinghan nodded affirmatively and replied firmly, I wouldn't dare lie to you, senior. I really did get this in the secret realm. However, this is my disciple Wutian's opportunity. He was the one who found the place where the scripture of the sage was hidden. Xiahou He glanced at Lin Wutian and said with certainty, You were born with the bone of a sage and have the help of a benefactor. You can easily become a sage in this life. Lin Wutian didn't look happy. He was very calm, as if he was determined to become a sage. However, he still bowed and thanked him. Thank you for your praise, senior. This is all thanks to my master. Without him, I wouldn't be here today. Yi Qinghan smiled and said faintly, Your master can show you the way, but your cultivation depends on you. This is your own talent and will. It has nothing to do with me. Don't belittle yourself. You don't have to praise each other. Everyone has their own opportunities. This scripture of the sage is Lin Wutian's opportunity. It was given by God. Even if we study it, it will be difficult for us to become a sage. We can't even understand this scripture of the sage. He must be the only one who can understand it. Take it. Xiahou He shook his head. He was very open-minded, unlike the others who fought like crazy for the scripture of the sage. He threw it to Lin Wutian. Lin Wutian bowed and thanked him. He took the scripture of the sage. It seems that this secret realm is really special. When my ancestor found the scripture of the sage here, he thought it was just an ordinary secret realm. I didn't expect that after thousands of years, a new scripture of the sage would appear. Xiahou He slowly got up. His figure flashed and he came to the entrance of the secret realm. He said to the Xiahou clansmen, "Announce the end of the trial and dismiss everyone in the secret realm. From now on, without the permission of the 10 great elders of the clan, the secret realm is not allowed to be opened to the outside world." The Xiahou clansmen naturally knew that another scripture of the sage had appeared in the secret realm. They were regretting it. Before they could make a decision, Xiahou He made it in advance. "Give them double the money and lead them to the martial arts field in the ancestral land of the Xiahou clansmen. I will teach them to make it up to them." Xiahou He said faintly and turned to leave. Yi Qinghan, Yarsheng, and Lin Wutian stayed in the garden and looked at each other, especially Yi Qinghan and Lin Wutian. They didn't know Xiahou He at all. Now, they not only had the immortal elixir but also the scripture of the sage. If Xiahou He wanted to rob them, the three of them wouldn't be able to compete with him. Chapter 2109. In the garden, the three of them sat in the pavilion and waited. Yi Qinghan also inquired about Xiahou He's character from Yar Saint. His initial evaluation was that he was similar to the chess saint, but one could never judge a book by its cover. No one was sure if Xiahou He was the second chess saint. Yi Qinghan looked at the garden. After all, the Xiahou ancient capital was an existence that had stood in the world for countless years. It was even older than the Xiahou saint and was worthy of being studied by countless people. The architectural forms of the ancient capital were very similar. It was ancient and solemn. It had more spirituality than some sacred cities, as if it was a living city. Yi Qinghan observed for a long time and couldn't sit still anymore. He strolled around the ancient site, looking for its life trajectory and comprehending its historical rings. The traces of time were everywhere. Yar Saint had been here before. In fact, every time he went to the east from the Oshi sacred ground, this was a place he had to pass through. In the past, he would bring a customs clearance document and the Xiahou sacred ground would send someone to welcome him and arrange his accommodation. Therefore, he was very familiar with this ancient site. "Mr. Yi, this is the birthplace of the Xiahou saint." Back then, the Xiahou clan was only a medium-sized clan. It was not a wealthy clan, nor was it one of the 3,000-strong sections. However, because a saint was born in this city, it was blessed by the heavens and earth, recognized by all laws, and blessed by mysterious runes. The saint also recited many scriptures here many times. That's why this city has stood here proudly for so many years. There's nothing special about it. Your saint said crisply. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly and shook his head. That's what's special about it. Sword City, sky-reaching cult's top 3 schools, and other places are not the birthplaces of saints. You should be able to see the difference between the Xiahou ancient capital and them. That is, there's a majesty in the ancient capital that comes from its bones. It doesn't allow the world to profane it. The mysterious runes and great Tao around it are far purer than the saint's aura. In fact, many people have overlooked this point. Otherwise, comprehending this city is enough to become an existence like Xiahou He. Yarsheng was suddenly enlightened. His eyes flashed as he realized the problem. It's no wonder that many saints have forgotten their birthplace. Only the Xiahou ancient capital has become so majestic and ancient. It turns out that Saint Xiahou did not forget this place after he cultivated to the saint realm. He even lived here for a period of time, reciting sutras and spreading his teachings to the world. Yar Saint murmured. This city bestowed Saint Xiahou with eternity. Saint Xiahou reciprocated, allowing the city to receive the care of heaven and earth, allowing it to stand eternally in the world. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly and said, "Therefore, the great Tao contained in this city is not inferior to that of an eternal saint." Everyone underestimated this city. After Yi Qinghan finished speaking, he completely immersed himself in the city and began to comprehend it. He casually strolled along the streets and looked at the city. He didn't need to use his eyes to look at it, he just needed to use his heart to look. Lin Wutian and Yar Saint guarded him on his left and right, afraid that someone would suddenly attack him. Yi Qinghan's mental state was extremely relaxed. He did not have any defenses. His soul slowly wandered around the ancient capital, hoping to gain its recognition. Time flew by. Yi Qinghan walked for about 6 to 8 hours, but he did not trigger the ancient capital's soul. This was because he lacked the bloodline of the Xiahou family. To gain the recognition of the ancient Xiahou city, he needed perseverance and willpower that surpassed that of mortals. The first day passed just like that. Xiahou He watched Yi Qinghan walk on the streets from afar. His consciousness wandered, and his pure eyes contained a firm will. He was rather surprised. Is he trying to trigger the ancient capital and obtain the profound mysteries of the laws it contains? Xiahou He was stunned. His body trembled as he muttered to himself in shock. He actually thought of this step. I've been here so many times. Why didn't I think of it? Xiahou He's face glowed. His aura suddenly changed. He stepped out of the building, and his soul covered the entire ancient city. He merged with the city, wanting to merge with the ancient city and trigger the great Tao. Xiahou He's state of mind was extremely strong. He was many times stronger than Yi Qinghan, and he also had the bloodline of the Xiahou family. In just a moment, the entire ancient city seemed to have come alive. Pressure soared into the sky, and the sound of nature reverberated for millions of miles. "It's finally here," a voice appeared in Xiahou He's sea of consciousness. However, only he heard it. Even Yi Qinghan did not hear it. Yi Qinghan's comprehension had become Xiahou He's wedding dress. Whoosh! The ancient city shone brightly. Thousands of great Daos enveloped the ancient capital, bathing Xiahou He in holy light. His aura was in harmony with the heavens and the city. The holy light defied the heavens and changed fate. It replaced the blood of mortals and created the body of a saint. Buzz. The sound of nature reverberated between heaven and earth. Tens of thousands of laws rose and fell. The eyes of the heavens opened, making the ancient capital of Xiahou look especially majestic. Yi Qinghan was dumbfounded. He didn't expect that he hadn't triggered the mysteries of the city for such a long time. It had reminded Xiaohe that he didn't need any elixirs to reach this step. "Fuck, you've given him a big favor," the divine bird said unwillingly. Yi Qinghan was also very helpless. This was originally his opportunity, but he did not have the bloodline of the Xiahou family. He could only work for others. Everything had karma. Everything was predestined. This was the will of the heavens. Yi Qinghan could not overturn the will of the heavens. Yar Sheng trembled and shouted excitedly, "He's become a saint. He's actually become a saint. Mr. Ye's theory is indeed correct. We've all neglected the city itself. A saint that was rarely seen in 1,000,000 years had proven the Tao. In just 1,000 years, they had witnessed too. Chess Saint, Xiahou He." Chess Saint's position as a saint was completely dependent on himself. However, Xiahou He was enlightened by Yi Qinghan. It was difficult for a saint to repay such a favor in his life. Xiahou He reached his palms into the sky and muttered to himself in a low voice, "So that's how it is. I've waited for countless years in vain. I was blinded by a single leaf, but I was enlightened by a child." His majestic voice was like rolling thunder, vast and mighty in the sky. Heaven and earth were covered in golden light, acknowledging Xiahou He's position as a saint. When a saint proved the Tao, the great Tao rumbled. At this moment, all the eternal saints knew that there was another eternal saint in the world. Boom! A majestic aura appeared in the sacred city of the Xiahou clan. His gaze pierced through the void and saw Xiahou He in the ancient capital of Xiahou. He was immediately overjoyed. Our Xiahou clan has another saint. Our ancestors should be gratified." Xiahou Supreme laughed wildly. With another saint, their strength doubled. In the past, they were inferior to the War Clan and the Blessed Buddha Temple. Now, they had surpassed the War Clan and the Blessed Buddha Temple. This was the power of a saint. Buddhist hymns filled the sky. The Blessed Buddha of the Blessed Buddha Temple rushed into the void and faced the scorching sun. His Buddhist light illuminated the world as he looked down on all life. He stared at Shaho-He in the depths of the sacred city with a trace of unwillingness in his eyes. The Shaho sacred land was located a little to the west of the Blessed Buddha Temple. The two sacred lands bordered each other. If the other was strong, they would be weaker. Not even the War Clan would be willing to see the Shaho sacred land gain another eternal saint, let alone the Blessed Buddha Temple. Chapter 21:10. The Blessed Buddha Lord looked coldly at the Shaho sacred land. The pressure was mounting. To the north was the War Tribe, to the east was the eternal sacred land of Sword Tao, and to the west was the Shaho sacred land. Everyone was growing stronger. Only the Blessed Buddha Temple remained stagnant. How could they not feel pressured? When the War Tribe gains another eternal saint, the Blessed Buddha Temple's position will only grow weaker. Our space for survival will also shrink. In the end, we will disappear into history without a trace. The Blessed Buddha Lord felt an unprecedented sense of panic. In the Shaho ancient capital, all living beings cheered. All the mysteries of the Shaho ancient capital had been bestowed upon Shaho-He. His cultivation was on par with Shaho sovereigns. Shaho-He felt his strength rising steadily, surpassing even that of his ancestors. His entire body was filled with laws and power. He could shatter mountains and rivers with a wave of his hand. He could no longer suppress his excitement. On the street, Yi Qinghan couldn't help but smile wryly. He'd worked so hard for so long, but couldn't compare to Shaho-He's actions. It seemed that this was his ancestral land after all. This was his opportunity, not his. No matter how hard he worked, it wouldn't be his. He looked at the kneeling Shaho-He, who was devoutly watching the inheritance in the air. Shaho-He had received the acknowledgement of heaven, earth, and the ancient capital. His strength rose rapidly, surpassing Shaho's sovereign in the process. This was an opportunity. Some people worked hard for their entire lives, but couldn't compare to someone else's inheritance. Rich kids are amazing, said the divine bird with jealousy. Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently, waiting for Shaho-He to complete the inheritance and the blessing of heaven. After a full day and night, Shaho-He finally completed the process. His cultivation approached the eternal saint realm. Beyond that, he would be a great saint. Shaho sovereign crossed hundreds of ancient cities to arrive at the ancient capital. He looked at the place where he was born and raised, unaware that such a great secret was hidden here. The power of heaven and earth was forever unfathomable to man. No matter how strong a man became, he was still as weak as an ant in front of the heavens. My son, congratulations. You'll be able to reach the heavens in a single bound. Supreme Shaho was all smiles as he sincerely congratulated her. Shaho-He opened his eyes. His gaze was like a torch. The might of a saint filled the air. Holy light flowed through his body. He bowed slightly and said, "Greetings, ancestor. This is all thanks to the ancestral land." Shaho shook his head with a smile. "This is your fortuitous encounter. I don't know the fortuitous encounter of this place." Shaho-He looked at Yi Qinghan and waved his hand to bring the three over, entering the great hall of the ancestral land with Shaho Jizun. "Patriarch, you must have seen these three people before. They are Yar Saint of the Oshi Holy Land, Yi Qinghan, a disciple of the Piercing Sky Immortal Cult. The other one is Yi Qinghan's disciple, Lin Wutan. It's all thanks to this Yi Qinghan that I was able to discover the opportunity in the Shaho ancestral land. I should thank him." The great hall was resplendent and resplendent. Shaho Jizun looked much older than Shaho-He. He looked at Yi Qinghan and naturally knew who he was. Shaho Jizun looked at Yi Qinghan and smiled. Who among the younger generation wouldn't recognize a troublemaker who isn't even afraid of Xia Jiolong? Who would have thought that you would be the one to turn the Shaho sacred land upside down, brat? Yi Qinghan hadn't expected Shaho Jizun to evaluate him like this. He could only smile awkwardly and bow. Greetings, Xiahou Jizun. This junior greets you. Yar Saint greets Xiahou Jizun. Lin Wutian and Yar Saint bowed in unison. Xiahou Jizun smiled and slowly sat down in the main seat. He gestured with his hand. Sit down, all of you. There are no outsiders here. There's no need to stand on ceremony. Yi Qinghan, Yar Saint, and Lin Wutian first congratulated Xiahou He on becoming a saint before sitting down. Xiahou He's face was full of gratitude. He really needed to thank Yi Qinghan this time. Without him, he wouldn't have thought of comprehending a city in his lifetime. What do you three want? Just tell me. If I can do it for you, I'll definitely do it for you, Xiahou He said happily. Yi Qinghan didn't dare accept such a gift. Even if he'd done a great favor for a saint, he didn't dare ask for anything in return. The position of a saint was recognized by heaven and earth. If he accepted it, wouldn't he be admitting that he was on par with the great Tao of heaven? You're too kind, Saint He. This junior didn't do anything. As you said, this is your opportunity. No one can take it away from you. Even if I hadn't reminded you, you would have discovered it anyway, Yi Qinghan hurriedly said with a bow. Xiahou He felt apologetic and guilty. He felt that if he didn't return this favor, he wouldn't feel at ease for the rest of his life. Looking at Yi Qinghan, he said indifferently, Xiahou He, you don't have to worry about him. I'm afraid that this guy's foundation isn't inferior to mine. Just talking about immortal pills alone, he has as many as 2. I heard that Xia Jiolong brought more than 200 experts to stop him in the Coiling Dragon Island some time ago, but only 12 of them came back. That's a heavy loss. On the other hand, this brat has gained quite a lot of benefits. I'm afraid that some of those resources are something that both you and I covet. Xiahou Supreme looked at Yi Qinghan as if they had known each other for millions of years. He knew Yi Qinghan's temperament very well. With just a few words, he made Yi Qinghan look for a crack in the ground. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. Since the other party had said so, if he didn't express his gratitude, they would become strangers in the future. These 4,000 Heavenly Spirit Saint stones are a gift from this junior to you 2 saints. I hope you won't be polite with me. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and took out 4,000 Heavenly Spirit Saint stones. They were bathed in holy light and filled with spiritual qi. How generous! This made Xiahou Supreme confused, let alone Xiahou He, who had just become a saint. They had saved up for so many years and didn't have many Heavenly Spirit Saint stones. Xiahou He only had a few dozen pieces. Yi Qinghan gave them 4,000 pieces at once. It was enough to make them go wild with joy. The Heavenly Spirit Saint stones were divided into 2 pieces, each of which was 2,000 pieces. They appeared in front of the 2 eternal saints. Such an act of goodwill might be useless, but it might save his life. Everything had a cause and effect. Yi Qinghan hoped that the good karma he had planted this time would bear fruit in the future. Yi Qinghan said firmly. He also hoped to give away these 4,000 Heavenly Spirit Saint stones. The 2 saints were overjoyed. After all, they could use it. They didn't stand on ceremony with Yi Qinghan anymore. No wonder the great sage and the chess sage like you so much. You really know how to conduct yourself. Xiahou Supreme sighed. Yi Qinghan smiled sheepishly and replied in a low-key manner, You flatter me, saints. This is what I should do. I found these Heavenly Spirit Saint stones on the island. There aren't many of them and I can't use them. I might as well give them to the seniors. I hope you can find some good opportunities. Xiahou Supreme nodded repeatedly, full of admiration for Yi Qinghan. He asked, Are you married yet? Do you mind having 1 or 2 more? There are many beautiful women in the Xiahou sacred land. They are all good wives and mothers. If you are interested, I can introduce you to a few more. Yi Qinghan's forehead was sweating. He hadn't given away so many Heavenly Spirit Saint stones to marry a few beautiful women. Therefore, he shook his head repeatedly and said firmly, I already have a wife, but I don't know what to do with a few beauties. Senior, please spare me. Xiahou He was so amused that he stroked his beard repeatedly. Not long after, the auras of saints appeared in the sky above the ancient Xiahou capital. Evidently, the eternal saints of the various sacred lands had come to congratulate Yi Qinghan, discuss the Tao, and comprehend the heavenly Tao. Chapter 21:11. The sages came from all over the place. The blessed Buddha Lord was the first to arrive, followed by the Zhan clan elder, Ancestor Zhan. With the return of the saints, there would definitely be another ceremony to worship the heavens. This was the best opportunity for the heavens to bestow blessings. However, there was only one chance in a person's life. Even if there was a great opportunity to receive a second blessing from the heavens, the favor received would be greatly reduced. Yi Qinghan and Ya, her saint obviously did not need to participate in the heaven worship ceremony. However, Yi Qinghan hoped that the group from the insane sect could participate because the heaven worship ceremony was a great opportunity. If they could obtain the sage techniques, their lives would be worth it. The two Xiahou sages were looking for the eternal sages who were constantly rushing over. Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged in his courtyard, thinking about how to get the people from the insane sect to participate in the heaven worship ceremony. It's too far across the blessed Buddha temple's territory. Moreover, the blessed Buddha temple is our enemy. How can we get them to participate in the ceremony quickly and safely? Yi Qinghan lowered his head and muttered to himself. It was obvious that he would be staying in the Xiahou ancient capital for a while. He could go and propose marriage at any time, but it would be a loss if he missed a sage's heaven worship ceremony. Don't think that it's easy to become a sage just because two sages had recently confirmed their Tao. Don't think that participating in the heaven worship ceremony is a once-in-a-million-years opportunity. Yi Qinghan knew how precious the opportunity to participate in the heaven worship ceremony was. He regretted not knowing about it the first time. He must not let the people from the insane sect miss the opportunity last time. A few days later, the date of the heaven worship ceremony was announced. It would be held 15 years later, giving the people of the world a chance to meet the sages. Yi Qinghan thought for a long time and decided to ask the chess sovereign for help. He then went to find Xiahou Jizun. Xiahou Jizun was entertaining some sages who had just arrived. When he heard that Yi Qinghan had come to meet him, he did not refuse and went out to welcome him personally. Little Yi Qinghan, why are you looking for this old man? Xiahou Jizun looked at Yi Qinghan and asked. Yi Qinghan bowed and said, Senior, please do me a small favor. Say it. This old man won't reject anything that I can help you with, Xiahou Supreme replied straightforwardly. Yi Qinghan immediately said, Can you use your connections to contact Chess Saint from the Sword Dao Great Eternal Sacred Ground and ask him to bring the Kuang sect's members to the heaven worshipping ceremony when he passes by the heaven suppressing palace? Xiahou Sovereign glared at Yi Qinghan and asked, How many people are there in your proud sect? I can't arrange any more than that. Yi Qinghan smiled, raised 4 fingers and said, It's only about 40 people. It's easy to arrange. Senior, please fulfill my little wish. After all, my Kuang sect is a small sect. If I don't cherish such a good opportunity, I don't know when I'll get another one. Xiahou Sovereign was rather surprised that there were only 40-odd people in a single sect. Even the smallest sect would have more than 100 people, not to mention that Yi Qinghan, the sect lord, had a decent status and cultivation base. It's easy to contact Chess Saint, but whether he agrees to help you or not, that's between the two of you. I can't do anything about it, Xiahou Supreme said frankly. Yi Qinghan nodded, believing that Chess Saint would definitely be willing to help. Xiahou Supreme formed a seal with his palms and quickly controlled the Tao of heaven through his saint position. A saint technique pierced through the clouds and the stars moved, rushing towards the east. Chess Saint and Great Eternal Saint from the Sword Dao Great Eternal Sacred Ground had yet to depart. Chess Saint was comprehending the saint technique with the galaxy as the chessboard and the stars as the chess pieces. With a wave of his hand, the heaven and earth shifted and the time and space changed. Suddenly, a saint light appeared in the galaxy. Chess Saint waved his hand and unlocked the message in the saint light. He didn't expect it to be Xiahou Supreme. On one hand, it was an invitation and on the other, it was a message for Yi Qinghan. This brat can actually get Xiahou Supreme to send a message for him. Chess Saint smiled and dispersed the stars. He stepped into the sacred chess peak and found the Great Eternal Sword Dao Great Eternal Saint. He bowed slightly and said, Senior brother, Yi Qinghan asked me to help lead the Kuang sect's people to participate in the heaven worship ceremony. I'll have to trouble you with the Sword Dao sect's disciples. The Great Eternal Sword Dao Great Eternal Saint's eyebrows were sharp and his eyes were frightening. He glanced at Chess Saint indifferently and reminded, Junior brother, Yi Qing Han and Xia Jiulong are fighting happily now. It's not good for you to take sides now, is it? Chess Saint smiled and said, This is between them. I'm just helping out. It's not considered taking sides. Senior brother, you worry too much. I won't drag the Sword Dao Great Eternal Sacred Ground into this mess. The Great Eternal Sword Dao Great Eternal Saint knew how powerful the Sacred Nation was. He didn't want to get involved in the battle between the Sacred Nation and others. Moreover, Yi Qing Han had a powerful background and represented the sky-reaching church. If the Sacred Nation's Sacred Lord didn't want to attack Yi Qing Han and took it out on them, wouldn't the Sword Dao Great Eternal Sacred Ground be destroyed? Sai, take care of it yourself. The Great Eternal Sword Dao Great Eternal Saint sighed. Chess Saint bowed and left. In the blink of an eye, he appeared outside of the heaven-suppressing city. In the heaven-suppressing city, the crazed sect was peaceful and harmonious. The experts were all hiding in the back mountains and cultivating their saint techniques. The resources were endless. Occasionally, the Green Lotus Sword Immortal would appear and give them pointers. Even a great saint was attracted by the elites of the crazed sect. These elites were indeed talented and worth nurturing. With abundant resources and powerful saint techniques, experts were constantly breaking through to the middle level. Once they entered the middle level, they would become the kings of the same level. There were also a few ninth-rate legendary experts. Gu Qingyu, Jiang Jingtian, Li Feng, Yan Ao, Huang Peng, Xia Ziluo, Di Longtian. These top-notch existences were definitely in the legendary level. As for the rest, even if they were not in the legendary level, they were not far from it. As for Jian Chenxue, she had received the quintessence of the Green Lotus Sword Immortal. Her cultivation had probably surpassed Fan Yin's. It was just that she could not use the Green Lotus Sword song now. Once she unleashed it, her name would definitely spread far and wide. Now, in the crazed sect, only Lin Wutian and Jian Chenxue were in the upper level. It was not that the others could not break through, but they were all restraining themselves. They wanted to increase their combat power again. If they rushed into the upper level, they would be stuck in the upper level for the rest of their lives. Hua! A Saint Chi spread out and shrouded the entire crazed sect, startling everyone. Chess Saint was even more shocked. He did not expect that his Saint Divine Sense could not see through the courtyard on the south side of the crazed sect. The Saint Chi was faintly discernible, but it was like a chasm that was difficult to cross. He really has a great saint behind him. This brat did not lie to me. Chess Saint was shocked. At this moment, he was almost certain that Yi Qing Han was involved in an earth-shattering war. It had not erupted yet, but once it did, the world would collapse and the eternal world would fall apart. Chess Saint wanted to see who was hiding in the courtyard. With a flash of his figure, he appeared outside the courtyard. However, he did not dare act rashly. Instead, he said respectfully, Junior Chess Supremacy Saint is here to seek an audience with Senior. After a long time, no one spoke. The experts of the crazed sect had already arrived outside the courtyard. Yan Ao recognized Chess Saint's identity and stopped everyone's violent chi. At this moment, the door opened faintly. A peerless beauty walked out. She was like a fairy walking out of ice and snow. Her temperament was otherworldly. It was Jian Chenxue. Jian Chenxue bowed and said, I am Yi Qing Han's wife, Jian Chenxue. I am also a disciple of the great saint in the courtyard. Greetings, Chess Saint. My husband has mentioned several times that you are the real eternal saint. Today, I see that it is true. Chess Saint was stunned, but he immediately returned the greeting. So you are little Ye's wife. There is no need to stand on ceremony. I wonder if the senior inside can accept my audience? Jian Chenxue shook her head. Her face was like a peach blossom. She was clearly rejecting him, but it was hard to get angry. Senior, my master has been in seclusion recently and does not see outsiders. I hope you can forgive him, Jian Chenxue said in a crisp voice. Chapter 2112. In the Xiahou ancient capital, in Yi Qinghan's courtyard. Lin Wutian looked worried. He looked at Yi Qinghan and asked, "Master, aren't you afraid that the chess saint will be exposed if he goes to the crazy mansion?" Yi Qinghan shook his head slightly and replied, "If the chess saint is the chess saint I know, he will not enter the courtyard. But what if he is curious and barges into the courtyard? Everything will be over." Lin Wutian was still worried. After all, this matter was too serious. Once exposed, not only would the Green Lotus Sword Immortal be in danger, but the crazy sect would also be destroyed. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "I believe in the chess saint. Even if he did something wrong and barged into the courtyard, he will definitely die. She will not let him come out alive." In the crazy mansion, outside the courtyard, Jian Chenxue was very calm, but deep down she was very nervous. She was afraid that the chess saint would barge into the courtyard. The chess saint's black hair fluttered. His eyes were like torches. He stood outside the door for a long time and did not leave. He seemed to be thinking. There are only 3 great sages in the eternal world. It can't be the sacred master, let alone the one from the Oshi sacred ground. The heavenly grandmaster great sage would not be so bored as to come to my Sword Way holy land to cultivate a small sect. This means that the great sage of the crazy mansion is not from the eternal world, but one of the 10 great secret realms back then? The chess saint muttered to himself as his eyes flashed. There were a total of 3 great sages that were suppressed back then. The Bailey Longxian, the Green Lotus Sword Immortal, and the Star Emperor Lord of the Star Great Net World. Could the great sage of the crazy mansion be one of the 3? The chess saint looked up at Jian Chenxue. With Yi Qinghan's character, he would never give such a beauty to a man alone. Therefore, a figure appeared in his sea of consciousness involuntarily. Is it the Green Lotus Sword Immortal? She was the most powerful sword immortal back then. She entered the Sword Way and was many times more terrifying than Senior Brother. She once killed an eternal saint. Her understanding of the great Tao had already surpassed other great sages. The chess saint's wisdom was heaven-defying. Although he was ordinary and reserved, he was definitely a person of great wisdom. With his wisdom, he could guess the identity of the expert in the courtyard, but he didn't dare to be certain. No matter which great sage lived alone in the courtyard, the chess saint did not dare to barge in, nor did he want to. This was Yi Qinghan's foundation. Once exposed, Yi Qinghan would be in danger. "Sai, I've received your favor. I'll just pretend that I didn't see anything today." The chess saint sighed and turned to walk towards the hall of the crazy manor. Gu Qingyu and the others followed the chess saint, and their solemn expressions finally relaxed. "Who's in charge of the crazy sect now?" The chess saint looked at Yan Ao and asked faintly. Yan Ao quickly bowed and said, "Chess sage, right now, this junior and Gu Qingyu are in charge of the wild sect. If there's anything, we'll follow your orders." Chess saint shook his head and said indifferently, "It's nothing. A few days ago, the eternal saint was born in the Xiahou ancient capital of the Xiahou sacred land. He asked me to bring all of you to participate in the heaven worship ceremony and receive the blessings of heaven. Get ready. I'll take you there." Gu Qingyu and Jian Chenxue heaved a sigh of relief. They were really afraid that the chess saint had come for the courtyard alone. "Thank you, saint. You can take the rest of the crazy sect with you. I'll stay behind to guard the crazy manor." Jian Chenxue bowed and said. Emperor Feng and Zhou Shuguang both chose to follow. Such an opportunity was rare. Naturally, they were unwilling to let go of the chance to participate. Soon, Gu Qingyu gathered all the masters at the back of the mountain. There were more than 40 masters of the crazy sect. The lowest cultivation level was at the lower level, and there were about 20 of them at the middle level. Each of them was at the same level as the Supreme. When the chess saint saw the foundation of the crazy sect, his eyes almost popped out. "You're all from the crazy sect? Doesn't the crazy sect have defective goods?" The chess saint asked in surprise. Yan Ao smiled faintly. The crazy sect had been developing for so many years. Only Emperor Feng and Zhou Shuguang joined later. No one else was able to join. Back then, the crazy sect only had about 40 people. More than half of them were killed or injured. It was only because some of the younger generation added in that there were more than 40 people left. Senior, our crazy sect has yet to be officially established. Thus, we don't have any other disciples. These are all trustworthy people. We have gone through life and death situations to get here. Yen Ao said confidently. The chess saint counted carefully. There were only 45 people. He then said, "These are all the people from the crazy sect?" Yen Ao answered honestly, "There are still 2 who have yet to officially return. That's all." Emperor Yi and Bai Shaoxing. Their identities were already clear. They just had yet to return. The chess saint did not want to stay any longer. He waved his hand and sent everyone into the Qian Kuan space. With a twist of the stars, he broke through the void and left the heaven-suppressing city's territory. Fortunately, the chess saint did not observe the heaven-suppressing city carefully. Otherwise, he would have definitely discovered the eternal underground palace. His attention was all attracted by the green lotus sword immortal. In the Xiaohou sacred ground, in the Xiaohou ancient capital. 8 eternal saints had already arrived. They all had a good relationship with sovereign Xiaohou. Thus, they all came to congratulate him in advance. Xiaohou he was currently comprehending the saint technique. After a year, the saint technique covered the entire Xiaohou ancient capital. Every living being benefited from it. Even if he only comprehended a tiny bit of the technique, his attack power would be far beyond the upper-level experts. Everyone was looking at the Tao light in the sky in a daze. 10 colored lights intertwined and formed a huge barrier that covered the entire ancient capital. Each light was a secret technique. These were just the outer layer of the secret techniques. They were extremely difficult and weak. However, the secret techniques around Xiaohou he were easy to understand. They were extremely powerful and could destroy the heaven and earth with a wave of his hand. Xiaohou he stopped cultivating and slowly got up. She walked with light steps. Everywhere she passed, all living beings bowed down and knelt down to pray for blessings. After Xiaohou he left, they all looked at his back expectantly. They were incomparably excited, hoping that the eternal saint would give them some pointers that would benefit them for the rest of their lives. However, a saint's time was extremely precious. He wouldn't spend it on them alone. A moment later, Xiaohou he arrived at the side courtyard where Yi Qinghan, Yarxing and Lin Wutian were. He pushed the door open and entered. Yi Qinghan hurriedly stood up and bowed. "Saint He, what brings you to my side courtyard today?" "Come to my side courtyard to comprehend the saint techniques. It's your destiny to learn as much as you can," Xiaohou he said coolly. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank and he clenched his fists involuntarily. Saints usually gave this kind of opportunity to those closest to them. In fact, they didn't even give it to those closest to them. Instead, they gave themselves a quiet space to comprehend their own path as a saint. Who would have thought that Xiaohou he would allow him to comprehend the saint techniques around him at such a critical juncture? Before Yi Qinghan could say anything, Xiaohou he floated away. How could Yi Qinghan let go of this opportunity? He leaped up and chased after him. At this time, the saint techniques and saint techniques emitted by the eternal saint were the easiest to comprehend. Every saint technique and divine ability had been personally developed by the saint. They were clear and simple. With Yi Qinghan's talent, it couldn't be easier to learn them. Xiaohou he brought Yi Qinghan into the former residence of the saint. This attracted the envy and jealousy of the world. The Xiaohou clan was even more shocked and speechless. They were very unwilling to accept this. Their ancestor had become a saint, but the benefits were not the son of a saint, but an outsider. How could this be? What did this Yi Qinghan do to deserve this? Chapter 21:13. 15 years passed in the blink of an eye. Yi Qinghan became the only one who stayed by Xiaohou he's side to comprehend divine powers and saint techniques. He was the talk of the world. During these 15 years, countless experts had gathered in Xiaohou ancient capital. All the saints had basically arrived. The chess saint had already moved in with 40 experts from the insane sect. They were lucky this time as they did not sleep in a cave. The Xiaohou clan had arranged a place for the insane sect that was comparable to a sacred ground. Only a few experts from the powerful sects and clans had the opportunity to stay there. At the end of the 15th year, a saint from the Oshi sacred ground, which was the furthest from here, also came. However, his purpose was to receive the Yar saint and the immortal pill. Xiahou Supreme had already arranged the audience ceremony and had even left a place for the insane sect. Such treatment had already surpassed that of the powerful sections. Although the powerful sects and clans were dissatisfied, they could only endure it. In the place where Xiahou he was in seclusion, sacred light soared into the sky as countless divine powers gathered. Yi Qinghan formed seals with his 10 fingers and comprehended divine powers one after another. In these 15 years, he had comprehended a few divine powers every day. They were all saint techniques. Although the power he could unleash was not as strong as Xiahou He's, it was definitely much stronger than an ordinary upper level. Whoosh! Xiahou He had comprehended all the saint techniques bestowed by the heavens and the ancient city. His aura was restrained as a saint returned to his position. His saint aura was vast and mighty. He slowly stood up with an imposing aura. Yi Qinghan woke up from his seclusion. His aura became ordinary instead. He was no longer as aggressive and domineering as before. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan opened his eyes and smiled. He felt that the bottleneck of the upper level was no longer protected by the prison heavenly Taoist scripture. He could break it at any time and step into the upper level. However, he was not in a hurry. He was waiting for the bottleneck to break by itself. He was truly invincible among those of the same level. Below the upper level, even Xia Jiolong could not shake his supreme position. Xiahou He withdrew his saint aura and stared at Yi Qinghan, his deep voice rumbling, "Congratulations. As long as you are not killed by a saint, your saint realm is just around the corner." Yi Qinghan smiled faintly and bowed. "You should be the one who has successfully stepped into the saint realm. Once you become a saint, you are 3 times stronger than those old eternal saints. It is rare to find such a person. At least, no one has ever done it before." Xiahou He was still weak. Of a saint realm. Of saints were equivalent to 2 saints. But he was still weak compared to a supreme saint. "Let's go. There's no need to say anything more. It's better to keep a low profile in the present." Xiahou He knew the principle of living. If a supreme saint was angered, no matter how powerful an eternal saint was, he would be suppressed. Just like the one suppressed by the Hell Pagoda. Back then he was like the sun. Now he was still pitiful. He could not even see the sun, the moon, or the stars. He could not see the dawn or the future. Yi Qinghan also thought of that existence. Although he did not know who it was, he knew that it was related to him by blood and had saved his life. Yi Qinghan followed Xiahou He slowly on the street. He asked curiously, "Saint He, who is the sinner suppressed in the Hell Pagoda? What crime did he commit?" Xiahou He was slightly startled. Then he shook his head and said, "He has not cultivated to the supreme saint realm. You'd better not worry about it." Xiahou He was afraid of the sacred lord and the power of the sacred nation. Therefore, he did not want to say more. Yi Qinghan did not ask any more questions. He would definitely enter the Hell Pagoda again. The two slowly walked into the imperial city of the ancient capital. The imperial city was crowded with experts. Yi Qinghan found that the chess saint was talking with some eternal experts. He walked over. The chess saint was full of smiles. When he saw Yi Qinghan walking over, he stopped talking to the Eternal Supreme. Instead, he turned his head and said, "Little Yi Qinghan, the crazy sect is located in the west of the imperial city. It is arranged together with the people of the Oshi sacred ground. Go and take a look." Yi Qinghan bowed and left under the gaze of the saints. In the west of the imperial city, where the crazy sect was stationed, 40 experts were racing against time. Several courtyards were filled with the aura of mysterious laws and divine abilities. As soon as Yi Qinghan entered the area, he immediately woke everyone up. He glanced around and found that Lin Shui was among them. He could not help but slap his head in regret. "Damn, I forgot to let her stay." Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. Lin Shui still had the star chessboard. If she was caught by the people of the sacred nation, they would definitely capture her at all costs. At this time, Lin Shui was not aware of the danger. Instead, she was very excited and strolled around. Yi Qinghan rubbed his forehead and then reached out to touch Lin Shui's head. He said in a deep voice, "You should not have come. But since you are here, don't run around and don't participate in the heaven worship ceremony." "Why?" Lin Shui raised her head and asked innocently with her big round eyes. Yi Qinghan lowered his voice and said, "Because your enemies are here. We have no foundation. Even if we have a few eternal saints who are on good terms with us, they will not go against the entire sacred nation for us." At the mention of her enemies, Lin Shui immediately quieted down. Her face was pale, and she lowered her head without saying a word. Yi Qinghan did not want to provoke her. He looked up at the crowd and said in a deep voice, "The heaven worship ceremony is very important. When the time comes, respect the saints and respect the heavens. You will get something unexpected. Stop cultivating for a few days and adjust your state to the best state to prepare for the heaven worship ceremony." But it was Di Longtian and the others' first time participating in the heaven worship ceremony, so they were looking forward to it. As for Gu Qingyu, Jiang Jingtian, and Yan Ao, it was their second time participating, so they were very calm. Their first fortuitous encounter was not too good, so they were not looking forward to it this time. In the central region of the Xiahou ancient capital, 3 inns were booked by the sacred nation. Many experts came from the sacred nation, including Xia Zhilong. However, he was no longer in the middle realm but the upper realm. The immortal sealing mark on his forehead was faintly discernible, and his powerful aura could not be restrained. He was many times stronger than ordinary upper realm cultivators. Xian Xiu quickly walked into the inn. On the top floor, Xia Zhilong stood by the window and looked at the majestic ancient capital. Half of the mountains and rivers were in his sight. At this moment, his aura was even more otherworldly. Bang bang bang. A series of knocks came from the door. "Come in." Xia Zhilong did not even turn his head as he stared into the distance. He was even more confident now. Xian Xiu pushed the door and entered. He bowed and said, "Your Highness, we found Yi Qinghan's tracks. He has entered the insane sex area and his cultivation has increased a lot. He is between the upper realm and the middle realm. He can break through to the upper realm at any time." "What else is there?" Xia Zhilong asked faintly. Xian Xiu was silent for a moment and said hesitantly, "This subordinate found that the blessed Buddha temple seems to be paying special attention to the insane sex area, especially the thousand-hand Buddha. He is watching almost all the time. However, it seems that he does not have good intentions. Call the thousand-hand Buddha to see this emperor." Xia Zhilong waved his hand. Chapter 21:14. Summon the thousand-hand Buddha to see this emperor. Xia Zhilong's aura was like that of an emperor, seizing the will of heaven and earth with a wave of his hand. Gong Wuxing was a true disciple of blessed Buddha temple with a lofty status. In his eyes, the thousand-hand Buddha was just a dog. Xian Xiu looked at Xia Zhilong's fluttering dragon robe, and his heart was filled with respect. Back then, perhaps it was because of Xia Zhilong's status, but now he revered his strength and feared his future. "Yes, Your Highness." The mystic bowed and left. Xia Zhilong still did not turn his head. His eyes pierced through the void and looked directly at the camp of the wild clan of the West. Golden dragon flames flickered in his eyes. His slender fingers pressed against the edge of the window, and the corners of his mouth lifted slightly. "Yi Qinghan, if I want to kill someone, no one will be able to escape. If I want something, no one can stop me. Your immortal pills will all become my dowry. As for the opportunities you obtain, they will all belong to me." Xia Zhilong's voice was filled with resentment and hatred. It was hoarse and deep, causing others to shudder. Outside the encampment of the Kuang Zong, Gong Wuxing stared at the entrance of the courtyard where the Kuang Zong was stationed, fearing that he would miss something interesting. "Yi Qinghan, the blessed Buddha temple will take your immortal pill. Otherwise, how can the blessed Buddha temple establish itself in the world when the other sacred grounds have 2 eternal saints?" Crack, crack, crack. The thousand-hand Buddha's eyes flashed with a cold light. Previously, they wanted the immortal pill because of benefits. But now, they had no choice but to seize the immortal pill and create a saint. But just as the thousand-hand Buddha was muttering to himself, a large hand suddenly patted his shoulder, scaring him so much that his face turned pale. He jumped 3 feet into the air and turned around to see Xianxiu. He immediately shouted angrily, "You lunatic, are you courting death?" Xianxiu's eyes glinted coldly. He clenched his fists and then released them. He said in a hoarse voice, "His Highness the Crown Prince is looking for you. It's up to you whether you want to see him or not." Gulp. Although the thousand-hand Buddha didn't care about mystic cultivators, he couldn't help but care about Xia Jiolong. Xia Jiolong's words could determine whether or not his true disciple could be saved. "Why is he looking for me?" the thousand-hand Buddha asked warily. "You'll know when you get there," Xianxiu said coldly and turned to leave. The thousand-hand Buddha hesitated for a moment before following him. The thousand-hand Buddha left the surveillance spot. As soon as his figure moved, Yi Qinghan, who was standing on the highest floor of the insane sect's encampment, caught his trail. His divine sense was of the upper plane, and it was stronger than in ordinary upper planes. It was easy for him to find the spy. The thousand-hand Buddha has been spying on Guangzhong. What is he trying to do? Could it be that the people from Black Wind Stockade are from Blessed Buddha Temple? Yi Qinghan had no choice but to be cautious and think of the worst-case scenario. Those people are clearly using Heavenly Demon Cult's mutated cultivation method. At the very least, the Heavenly Demon Bao belongs to Heavenly Demon Cult. Blessed Buddha Temple and Heavenly Demon Cult should be enemies, so why would Blessed Buddha Temple know Heavenly Demon Cult's cultivation method? Shouldn't the Sky Demon Bao be the Sky Demon's natal weapon? Yi Qinghan had many questions that he couldn't find an explanation for. He stared at the back of the thousand-hand Buddha for a long time, unable to come back to his senses. But if they are not from Blessed Buddha Temple, then who are they? It was impossible for an eternal saint to lose his weapon. Where was Heavenly Devil Cult Master? He couldn't have given his weapon to someone before he went missing, right? The more Yi Qinghan thought about it, the more puzzles he had. Phew, Yi Qinghan let out a shaky breath, unwilling to think any further. He could only find out if he found Heavenly Devil Cult Master. However, there was one thing he was sure of, and that was that these people weren't from Heavenly Demon Cult. Otherwise, Heavenly Demon Cult Master would have summoned Fazhen Demon Venerable. Whoosh, just as Yi Qinghan was about to turn and leave, a few figures quietly entered the depths of the ancient capital from the entrance of Guangzhong's encampment. The aura on their bodies was very strange, and they didn't even seem human. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and stretched his head to look at the strange, strong practitioners. There were no waves of sacred power on their bodies, and when they moved, there were no afterimages. It was as though they were teleporting. One moment, they were in the same spot, and the next, they were more than 10 meters away. However, they were so casual that if one didn't look closely, one wouldn't have noticed them. What are they? They don't seem to have any energy waves. Yi Qinghan's eyes widened in shock. Yi Qinghan immediately sent a message to Seijia, who appeared in the attic in a flash. He stared in the direction Yi Qinghan was pointing at, and his eyes flashed. He said in shock, "They are from the Ghost God clan. They haven't appeared for many years. These people are born as ghosts and gods, and they are saints when they cultivate to the Supreme Being realm. They once cultivated to the Supreme Being realm, but they mysteriously went missing and haven't appeared since. Their people are very strong, and they are definitely stronger than humans of the same level. There are many legendary people like Gong Wuxing who can roam the Jianghu." Yi Qinghan was shocked. He thought that his Guangzhong was the cream of the crop, but he didn't expect the Ghost God clan to be even better. It's best not to provoke them. The appearance of their people is very likely because of the appearance of the Ghost God clan's saint. The eternal saint of the Ghost God clan might have broken through the shackles and entered the Supreme Sage realm. Once he enters the Supreme Sage realm, his strength will be comparable to sect leader Tong Tian and my ancestor, Seijia, reminded him. Yi Qinghan didn't panic about the appearance of the Ghost God clan. Instead, he felt relaxed. Such a God-given race would definitely be stronger than Xia Jiulong in their hearts. What good could happen when two powerful races collided? Yi Qinghan smiled and said indifferently, "It's good to know who they are. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Why would I provoke my friends?" Sage smiled bitterly and shook his head. "You're wrong. Xia Jiulong's relationship with the Ghost God clan is not bad. Their relationship with the Oshi sacred land is very bad." Yi Qinghan was a little surprised. He didn't expect his speculation to be wrong. Yi Qinghan nodded silently and touched his nose. He looked at the departing figures of the Ghost God clan and fell into deep thought. The strength of the 6 people who appeared was not inferior to Jiang Jingtian, Gu Qingyu, or Li Feng. If they joined forces with Xia Jiulong, the eccentric sect would be defeated. Sigh. Yi Qinghan sighed and looked at the passage of time. The bell outside roared. He knew that the heaven worship ceremony was about to begin. He said in a low voice, "You should prepare for the heaven worship ceremony first. Call Lin Shui up. I won't be participating in this ceremony." Sage respectfully retreated. Yi Qinghan stood on a tall building, overlooking all living beings and comprehending them. He hoped to break through to the Great Perfection realm as soon as possible and advance to the upper realm, becoming a true supreme invincible. Woo-woo-wooed at the sound of the horn was mighty and the sky roared. The great Tao gathered and a 5-colored light appeared in the sky. Heaven and earth visions appeared and dragons and phoenixes soared. The heaven worship ceremony began. All the masters walked out of the Xiaohou ancient capital. There was a large plain there, enough for the world to see. The masters of the eccentric sect and the people of the Oshi sacred land gathered and rushed out of the gate. Only Lin Shui looked at them expectantly. She had no choice but to walk up the tall building and stand beside Yi Qinghan. Chapter 21:15. The high platform outside the city gate had been built. Saints had gathered, giving Xia Hoha enough face. This time, the glory world was even bigger than the chess saint. Other than the Nightwalker, all the young experts had arrived. Yi Qinghan appeared on the highest building beside the city wall with Lin Shui. He looked down at the common people from a first-person perspective. It was like a god ruling over all living beings. Everything in the world was in his sight and could be controlled with a wave of his hand. This was the first time Yi Qinghan had experienced something like this. He could even control a saint. Experts kept appearing. The Spectre experts did not follow Xia Jiulong. Instead, they sat alone. Xia Jiulong's aura was even stronger. It was so strong that the younger generation could not compete with him. The thousand-hand Buddha's face was red at this moment. He seemed to be very excited. He must have reached a consensus with Xia Jiulong. Fanning also came. However, she came as a representative of the Sky Reaching School's sect master. She was protected by the 3 deans. Her eyes were disdainful. Her appearance attracted the attention of all the young people in the world. Even a saint did not receive such treatment. The 2 young men in linen clothes who had sat beside the chess saint walked over with the breeze. Their auras were extraordinary. They still came to the chess saint's side. They kept a low profile, unlike the other legendary experts whose auras were so domineering. The Son of War had arrived. Gong Wuxing, Wu Zong, Emperor Yi, and by Xiaoxing's reincarnated golden bodies, Yi Qinghan looked down at everyone from the highest point. He did not greet anyone he knew. He put himself in the position of the ruler and observed everyone's expression, including the saints. No matter how casual the saints were, they still noticed Yi Qinghan, especially the Cloud Dragon Saint. His eyes flashed as he turned to look at the top of the tall building where Yi Qinghan was. Their eyes met. Yi Qinghan did not show any fear. After a spark, their eyes separated. At this moment, a figure distorted the void and appeared in front of everyone. His aura was exactly the same as the Spectre experts, but his aura was stronger. He was much stronger than the 6 specters from before. Furthermore, he was at the upper level. "Greetings, Divine Son," the 6 specters said respectfully as they knelt on one knee. The deity nodded and said, "Get up." The deity of the Spectre clan. Many experts from the Holy Lands could not help but shout. At this time, even the eternal saints sat up straight with a certain degree of respect in their eyes. Xia Jiolong looked at the divine sun and nodded slightly. The deity prince of the Guatian clan turned around to greet them. His face was expressionless. Then he looked at the eternal saints and bowed with cupped fists. Greetings, deity prince of the Guatian clan. Congratulations to Saint He for entering the eternal realm. Ha! The saints laughed and waved their hands to help Gui Shensi up. Xiahou He rose to his feet and returned the greeting. It's an honor for the Xiahou sacred land to grace us with your presence, the divine child of the specter gods. Gui Shensi had a smile on his face. He couldn't be considered handsome, but that extraordinary temperament of his was enough to make all the women in the world go crazy. A trace of his devilish charm could make all the men's hearts beat faster. Actually, I'm not here just to congratulate Sage He on reaching the eternal realm. I'm here to deliver the will of the God Ancestor. My God Ancestor has broken the legend of my people and become a great sage. He's going to reappear soon, and I hope that everyone will be there to support him. Ghost Shensi clasped his hands in greeting. A great sage. Currently, there were only 3 great sages in the world. Including Green Lotus Sword Immortal, who was missing half of his origin, there were only 4. Now that there was another great sage, who wouldn't be shocked? All of the saints were shocked by Gui Shensi's news. Yi Qinghan, who was standing on top of a tall building, trembled slightly. He was afraid of a great sage. At this level, he couldn't even muster the will to resist. The world fell into silence. Even the sound of breathing could be heard. Fan Yin frowned at Gui Shensi, annoyance in her eyes. This Gui Shensi cultivated a strange saint technique that was impossible to defend against. He was even more difficult to deal with than Xia Jiolong. She would rather fight Xia Jiolong than Gui Shensi. Furthermore, Gui Shensi had long been interested in her. He had come to propose marriage several times, but was rejected by the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage. Now that there was another great sage in the Guatian clan, the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage couldn't reject him directly. Gui Shensi seemed to have sensed the annoyance in Fan Yin's eyes, and a devilish smile appeared on his face. Looking at Fan Yin's beautiful face, he made no attempt to hide his lust. That determined look in his eyes made Fan Yin very uncomfortable. Fan Yin, after so many years, you still haven't improved. You really disappoint me. Gui Shensi ignored the eternal saints and smiled evilly. As long as you agree, you and I can have 2 saints, or even 2 great sages, together. Think about it again. What do you think? Get lost. I'd rather be alone for the rest of my life than consider you. Fan Yin scolded coldly. Gui Shensi smiled evilly and said confidently, you don't have to make the decision. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage should give face to the godly ancestor this time. The rest is up to me. If you win, I'll set you free. If you lose, I'll decide your fate. Fan Yin clenched her fists and glared at Gui Shensi. She said coldly, whether I win or lose, only I can decide my fate. At worst, I'll die. In the face of 2 legendary masters, the saints couldn't intervene. Xiahou He was about to mediate when Lin Wutian, who was sitting cross-legged in front of the Kuang sect, pulled out the hilt of his sword. The sword whistled and he looked up at Yi Qinghan, who was on the top of a tall building in the city. Yi Qinghan shook his head slightly, indicating that he shouldn't make a move. Lin Wutian's main battle force was the Green Lotus Sword Song. If he used the Green Lotus Sword Song, Gui Shensi might lose. But if he didn't, Lin Wutian would never be able to defeat Gui Shensi. Boom! Lin Wutian had to withdraw his sword. Gui Shensi glanced coldly at Lin Wutian, a disdainful smile on his face. I want to marry Fan Yin. Who in the world opposes it? Who agrees? Gui Shensi's deep voice filled the air. Fan Yin was beautiful, indescribably beautiful. All the handsome men in the world adored her. But who would dare to steal her from Gui Shensi? The world opposes it. But no one dared to speak up. Lin Wutian held the hilt of his sword tightly, watching the situation unfold. Fan Yin suppressed her anger and said in a low voice, even if the world agrees, I alone am enough to oppose it. Xiahou Supreme was dissatisfied. This Gui Shensi was too ungrateful. How dare he cause trouble during the audience ceremony? He didn't even put the Xiaoho's sacred ground in his eyes. But at this moment, Xia Jiulong clapped his hands and laughed. You can't say it like that. Junior sister Fanning, a hero is matched with a beauty, and a divine sword is given to a hero. Junior sister Fanning is as beautiful as a flower, capable of causing the downfall of cities and countries. Gui Shensi is a peerless genius, so junior sister Fanning mustn't be willful. I support Gui Shensi. Xiahou Supreme didn't dare to act recklessly. No one would benefit from offending the two sacred grounds. I'll say it again. If you win against me, or if anyone in the younger generation wins against me, I'll set you free. Otherwise, you're going to get married. Gui Shensi's willpower soared. He was even more arrogant than Xia Jiulong. Chapter 21:16. The ghost godchild was too arrogant. He was so arrogant that many young legendary-level experts were displeased. The son of war clenched his scimitar and tapped the hilt with his fingertips, but he was still enduring. He would attack when he couldn't. Many of Fannin's followers couldn't hold themselves back either. If they weren't afraid of the great saint behind Gui Shensi, they would have attacked long ago. The one he couldn't tolerate the least was Xiahou Yuan, a true disciple of the Xiahou house. What Ghost Shensi had done was a slap to the Xiahou sacred land's face. What would happen to Xiahou He's reputation after this? What would happen to the Xiahou family's reputation? Xiahou Yuan clenched his fist and said coldly, Gui Shensi, are you trying to use your great saint backing you to make a scene in the saint's meeting ceremony? Or are you trying to court Fanning with your own strength? Gui Shensi smiled evilly and said confidently, why would I blaspheme the saint's meeting ceremony? I am sincerely pursuing Fairy Fanning. In the past few years, I have been rejected several times to propose marriage. Everyone should know that this time, the heroes of the world bear witness to my sincerity towards Fairy Fanning. This time, I guarantee that if I lose, I will never harass Fairy Fanning again, nor will I use my connections to take revenge. Gui Shensi had the right to be arrogant. He was an upper-level legendary expert. After so many years, other than Xia Jiulong, the Dark Walker, and the two linen-clothed youths, no one could compete with him. No one would dare to attack Gui Shensi unless they were in the upper realm. Xia Jiulong originally wanted to provoke Yi Qinghan into attacking Gui Shensi so that both sides would be injured. Then he would be able to reap the benefits, so he naturally wouldn't stop Gui Shensi. Nowadays, most of the legendary experts were in the middle level, including Fanning. Lin Wutian wanted to teach Gui Shensi a lesson, but when he saw Yi Qinghan holding his right arm with his left hand, he gently shook his head, not allowing Lin Wutian to do anything. Lin Wutian's strongest move was the Green Lotus Sword Song. If he used it, Xia Jiulong might not be able to survive. However, once he used it, his identity would be exposed. Yi Qinghan didn't want to take the risk. He only hoped that the Dark Walker or the two linen-clothed youths would stop Gui Shensi. Lin Wutian could hold himself back, but Xiahou Yuan couldn't. He drew his sword and pierced through the void, charging towards Gui Shensi. The power of the sword was like a rainbow, tearing through the shackles. A legendary expert was indeed a legendary expert. The moment he made a move, he had the aura of an upper level. The sword chi swayed and pierced Ghost Shensi's throat with an unstoppable force. The divine sword pierced through Gui Shensi's throat, and his body slowly dissipated. There was not even a drop of blood. It was obvious that this was only his afterimage, and Gui Shensi had long since left. Boom! Gui Shensi appeared behind Xiahou Yuan and slammed his palm against his back. Boundless Gui Shensi's power penetrated Xiahou Yuan's back and sent him flying. Xiahou Yuan coughed up blood and flew several hundred meters away. Just one strike. The difference between their cultivation levels was too great. Xiahou Yuan could not be said to be weak by one major cultivation level. It could only be said that the difference of one major cultivation level was like the difference between heaven and earth. Gui Shensi was as calm as ever, as if he was still standing in the same spot. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The ghost god's strength was too strong. He was so strong that other legendary experts could not contend against him. Xiahou Jizun and Xiahou He's expression turned even uglier. If no one could defeat Gui Shensi today, the Xiahou sacred ground would lose face. The chess saint, who was sitting far away, frowned. He looked at the two young men beside him, and then at Gui Shensi. He could not help but sigh. It would be easy for the two young men to kill Gui Shensi if they worked together. However, if they were to fight alone, they would lose without a doubt. You've gone too far. Boom! The son of war roared. He pulled out his blade and soared into the sky. His battle intent was majestic, like a broken dam, rushing in all directions. Battle symbol art. Whoosh! The blade light tore through the shackles. It was as fast as lightning, and afterimages filled the sky. It was impossible to distinguish between the real body and the afterimages. Gui Shensi was even faster. Countless afterimages faced off against the afterimages of the Son of War. In an instant, all the afterimages were scattered, and the real body returned. His sharp claws tore through the void and grabbed the Son of War's scimitar. Boom! The two of them clashed. Shock waves blasted out in all directions, and the earth shook. If it were not for the pressure of a saint, the mountains and rivers would have been lifted. The Son of War was like a god of war. His strength was overwhelming, but he could not move an inch. Instead, Gui Shensi used his divine power and sent him flying with a palm. Not bad. Your speed and strength are enough. It's just that your cultivation level is a little low. Your overall strength is also weak. So what if you've reached the upper level? Gui Shensi stood there with his hands behind his back. He did not move an inch. Since the Son of War had lost, it was even more impossible for the others to fight. Fanning looked around and did not see Yi Qinghan. She clenched her fist, and the string appeared in her hand. She took a deep breath and said calmly, "I'll do it myself." Lin Wutian could see that Fanning could not win against Gui Shensi even if she used all her strength. He stood up with his sword and said firmly, "You're still a martial ant. How can I let you fight a piece of trash? I'm willing to fight for you so that you won't dirty your hands." Whoosh! Lin Wutian's momentum swept the heaven and earth. Thousands of swords bowed to the emperor. The swords in the hands of countless people involuntarily soared into the sky, intertwining with each other. Gui Shensi frowned and looked at Lin Wutian. His hand trembled, and a dark sword hilt appeared. He held the divine sword with his big hand, and a trace of killing intent appeared in his eyes. Lin Wutian slowly walked forward, his footsteps following the rhythm of heaven and earth. The swords in the hands of countless upper-level cultivators trembled and whistled. They wanted to draw their swords and soar into the sky, but they were all suppressed by the upper-level cultivators. Sword chi was gathering, and sword chi filled the air. Lin Wutian stared at Gui Shensi and said coldly, "Destroying the saint's audience ceremony should be a death sentence. Making fun of the saint of sky-reaching cult is also a death sentence." Gui Shensi raised an evil smile and asked disdainfully, "Is that so? But I want to kill you today, and no one can stop me." At this moment, Yi Qinghan could not wait any longer. Lin Wutian could not do anything to Gui Shensi without using the Green Lotus Sword Song. He could not let Lin Wutian expose his identity. "Stay here and don't go out." Yi Qinghan glanced at Lin Shui indifferently and stepped out of the pavilion. His steps were light and he walked step by step out of the city. "Guians, step back. It's better to let Master fight this battle." The majestic voice was mighty, and it shook the ears of all the cultivators around. Xiahou He's face was filled with joy. He secretly transmitted a message, "Yi Qinghan, cripple him. Otherwise, I don't know where to put my Xiahou clan's face." Yi Qinghan's face was expressionless. He only nodded and stepped into the center of the battlefield. His aura was restrained, but everyone could see that he was a middle-level cultivator. "Who are you?" "I don't kill nameless people." Gui Shensi asked coldly. Yi Qinghan waved his hand to adjust the Yin-Yang Bagua Taoist robe. He smiled faintly and said, "I'm your father. Did you ask for my permission to marry my wife?" Chapter 21:17. I'm your father, his words echoed in the air, causing countless young experts to cheer. Yi Qinghan's name had spread far and wide. No matter what he'd done in the past, he was the only one who'd followed Xia Hohe to gain enlightenment in the past 15 years. Without Xia Jiulong, perhaps Yi Qinghan was the only one who could defeat Gui Shensi. Ha! Everyone roared with laughter. Even Xiahou He and Xiahou Supreme were smiling. Yi Qinghan didn't wait for Gui Shensi to explode in anger. He said coldly, "You trampled on the saint's audience ceremony and delayed the auspicious time of the heavens veneration ceremony. You disrespected your seniors and the heavens. Saint He is of high status and power, so she didn't bicker with you. However, I look down on people like you, so I'll teach you a lesson on behalf of the heavens and all the eternal saints." Gui Shensi was furious. He clenched his fists and roared hoarsely, "You think you're worthy? You'll know whether I'm worthy or not after we fight. If you want me to use my weapon today, consider it my loss." Yi Qinghan waved his hand and activated the eternal gauntlets. Golden light flowed around his body, merging with his fists. His entire being was one with the city, and his aura was one with the heavens and earth. Once an expert made a move, the truth would be revealed. Yi Qinghan didn't make a move out of jealousy. He knew that Gui Shensi wouldn't dare kidnap Fan Yin in public. He just didn't want Lin Wutian to be exposed. Secondly, he wanted to save face for the Xiahou sacred land. Yi Qinghan raised his head and gave Gui Shensi a provocative look. "Make your move. If I make my move, you won't have the chance to." Gui Shensi laughed out loud. "Ha, you're the most arrogant person I've ever met. A mere mid-realm cultivator dares to talk to me like that?" Yi Qinghan shook his head and replied indifferently, "No, no, no. There is someone in this world who is much more arrogant and savage than me. I don't dare to disrupt the sage's audience and heaven worship ceremony just because I have a great sage behind me." When Yi Qinghan said this, it made the other sages take a stand. At least Yi Qinghan respected the eternal sages. They also had great sages and sons of the demon god behind them. It was obvious who was superior. Gui Shensi glanced at the sages and saw the dissatisfaction on Sage Yunlong's face. Disrupting the sage's homecoming ceremony was a great disrespect. At this moment, Yi Qinghan had the advantage of time, place, and people. His pressure was growing stronger and stronger. Lightning surrounded his iron fist. Yi Qinghan's eyes were like lightning. His divine power flowed through his legs and he used his shadowless cloud. His upper realm divine sense controlled everything within 1,000 miles. His golden body was filled with the profoundness of the sage techniques. These were all the profoundness he had learned in the past 15 years. Yi Qinghan said no more. He pointed out the evidence of Gui Shensi's crimes. Even if they lost this battle, the great sage of the Ghost God clan would not have the face to seek revenge. Boom! Yi Qinghan stepped forward and pressured Gui Shensi. Gui Shensi's evil aura soared to the sky. His figure pulled time and space. The air was restless and the wind was strong. The eerie air was flowing as if they had entered hell. Gui Shensi's 5 claws were like vicious hidden weapons. They turned into streaks of lightning and filled the sky with afterimages. He attacked Yi Qinghan from all directions. His murderous intent was thick. Dark clouds rolled in the sky and lightning raged. Yi Qinghan closed his eyes and channeled his divine sense to the maximum to locate Gui Shensi. His ears were trembling and his eyelids were about to open a few times. Hua 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 hua. Yi Qinghan raised both of his hands and moved the heaven and earth. The starting gesture of the 10-word spell was like that of a saint. Fan Yin and Xia Jiulong were shocked. They did not expect Yi Qinghan to have such a deep understanding of Tao. This guy's progress is too fast. Fan Yin and Xia Jiulong could not accept it. It had only been a few years. Yi Qinghan was crushed by Fan Yin in the past. Now he had surpassed them. Xia Jiulong could not accept it. How could a mere ant challenge his identity as the most powerful person in the world? Boom! While everyone was still in shock, Gui Shensi could not hold back anymore. His sharp claws grabbed the air and attacked Yi Qinghan from behind. Yi Qinghan seemed to be moving slowly, but in fact, He had already turned around. His right hand grabbed Gui Shenxi's claws and his left hand grabbed Gui Shenxi's arm. His body moved back slightly. Sticky word spell. Boom. Yi Qinghan grabbed Gui Shenxi's sharp claws tightly. The eternal boxing glove ignored the sharpness and viciousness of Gui Shenxi's claws. Yi Qinghan pulled and raised his hand, pinching Gui Shenxi's wrist and pushing it forward. Crack. Gui Shenxi was shocked. He quickly retreated. Otherwise, Yi Qinghan would break his arm. Boom. Yi Qinghan pulled Gui Shenxi closer. He let go of his hand and lifted his leg. The speed of the airflow was enough to kill a mid-level master. Gui Shenxi was shocked. He crossed his arms to protect his head and slammed into Yi Qinghan's long leg. Bang! Both sides collided. Shockwaves spread out in all directions. Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh whoosh! The powerful Gui Shenxi was pushed back a few hundred meters. He could not stand firm and kept retreating. His feet crushed the stone floor. Whoosh! Holy light shone around them. Many saints released their holy power and protected the area 1,000 meters around the battlefield. Only the area within 1,000 meters was left for the two to fight. Crack crack crack. Gui Shenxi rubbed his hand. He felt like his arm was about to be broken by Yi Qinghan's kick. He stared at Yi Qinghan gloomily. He knew that Yi Qinghan's body was unparalleled. He was already a paragon saint, and with his defense, he could not beat Yi Qinghan without using a weapon. Gui Shenxi reached out and grabbed the black divine sword. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Gui Shenxi's strength was far beyond the younger generation. The only ones who could match him were Yi Qinghan and Xia Jiulong. At most, the Nightwalker, the Judge, and the two linen-clothed youths. There were no more than 10 people. Emperor Feng clenched his fists. Back then, he was also a top existence. However, after 30,000 years of suppression, his cultivation had regressed. If he wanted to catch up, he had to rely on this heaven-worshipping ceremony. He watched the two cast spells. His divine power surged. He wanted to rush up and test himself. Just as everyone was worried, Yi Qinghan smiled. He looked at the divine sword in his opponent's hand without any fear. Yi Qinghan formed seals with his palms. His body emitted the aura of a saint. He was like an old man who had stood in the world for countless years. Xia Hohe was pleased. Yi Qinghan did not disappoint him. After 15 years of enlightenment, his strength had increased many times. He was only in the middle level now. Once he reached the upper level, Xia Jiulong and Gui Shenxi might not be his match even if they worked together. This Yi Qinghan already has the aura of a saint. It's just that his realm has not caught up. What a monster! I've lived for so many years, but I've never seen such a miracle. Xiahou Supreme sighed. He was a miniature version of Xiahou He. Many saints thought that Yi Qinghan was Xiahou He's disciple. They couldn't help but look at Xiahou He with envy. House Xiahou's reputation had been preserved. Yi Qinghan's intervention meant that Xiahou He's disciple had stepped in to suppress the troublemakers. The world couldn't say anything about it. They could only say that House Xiahou had many talents, which made them even more proud. Yi Qinghan used Xiahou He's saint technique. Thousands of miles of light shone, dispersing the dark clouds. His long hair danced. His Taoist robe was cold. His battle-intent sword. Gui Shenxi's aura was suppressed. This was a battle between a god and a supreme. He was a god, but Yi Qinghan was a supreme. Chapter 21:18. At this moment, Yi Qinghan had suppressed his realm just like Xia Hohe. He had learned 70 to 80% of Xia Hohe's saint technique. Even Xia Jiulong was no match for him, let alone Gui Shenxi. This situation was similar to how Yi Qinghan was no match for Xia Hohe when Xia Hohe suppressed his realm. Gui Shenxi's heart was filled with fear, and his facial muscles were distorted by the strong wind. Roared Gui Shenxi didn't dare to let Yi Qinghan gather his strength. He unsheathed his divine sword, and a dark sword light tore through time and space, aiming for Yi Qinghan's throat. Roar! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and formed a tiger shape. His 5 fingers turned into a giant hand that covered the sky and slapped towards Gui Shenxi. Boom! The palm carried the aura of Xiaoho City. It was majestic and could not be defied. It was as if a real saint had attacked. Even the experts who were protected by saints felt that their bodies were about to be crushed by Yi Qinghan's palm. Their eyes were filled with fear as they involuntarily retreated. He wasn't a saint, but he was stronger than one. Whoosh! Boomed at the five-fingered palm shattered Gui Shenxi's sword energy and directly crushed him. Crack crack crack. Gui Shenxi was defeated by the majestic force. His legs were twisted and stuck to the ground. He gritted his teeth and resisted. However, a trail of flames appeared on the ground and a chasm appeared outside the Xiaoho City. Gui Shenxi screamed as he saw Yi Qinghan's five-fingered palm imprint carrying the will of heaven and earth. Even after exhausting all his strength, he couldn't resist Yi Qinghan's palm. His body was pushed back continuously. In the blink of an eye, Yi Qinghan had flattened 1,000 meters away. Yi Qinghan's energy slammed into the barrier. His face was expressionless as he mobilized all the divine energy in his body and punched out again. This time, he turned into a meteor of fire and ruthlessly smashed towards Gui Shenxi. The two attacks seemed simple, but they had exhausted all of Yi Qinghan's energy. Gui Shenxi's hand was broken as he watched Yi Qinghan attack him again. This attack could definitely kill him. 9 Dragons Crown Prince, save me. The ghost Shenxi's appearance this time had been invited by Xia Jiulong. He had purposely angered Yi Qinghan. Although he had angered Yi Qinghan, the gap between them had widened. Neither side had suffered heavy losses. Xia Jiulong's eyes flashed as he waved his hand. The 9 Dragons fan appeared in his hand. His figure spun, and the stars rotated 9 times as he appeared in front of Ghost Shenxi. With a wave of his hand, the 9 Dragons fan slashed towards Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan and Xia Jiulong were sent flying by the shockwaves and retreated several steps. Cracked after the explosion, the world was originally quiet, but a clear sound broke the silence. Everyone stared at Yi Qinghan because he had broken through the shackles of his realm and successfully stepped into the upper level. Yi Qinghan's aura soared into the sky. His Taoist robe was pulled back, and his eyes were filled with disdain. The saints will filled his eyes as he looked down on all living beings. At this moment, Xia Jiulong felt the pressure. His black hair fluttered in the wind as the two supreme experts confronted each other. Yi Qinghan, the sage's attainment of the Tao should be celebrated by the heavens and the earth. Isn't it too disrespectful to the sage if you kill him now? Xia Jiulong said coldly. Yi Qinghan's body was like a bottomless pit, absorbing the spiritual energy of the heavens and earth. His godly power surged like a boundless ocean. He stared at Xia Jiulong and said indifferently, 9 Dragons Crown Prince, your words seem to be biased. Ghost Shenxi is arrogant and despotic here, and he blasphemes the saints' prestige and disrespects the heavens. You didn't say anything. The saints have no desires and will not bicker with such ants. I am not a saint, so I naturally have to speak up for Saint He and help him teach this ignorant brat a lesson. Xia Jiulong stared at Yi Qinghan and said indifferently, I have never seen him blaspheme a saint. Seeking love is human nature. If the saints of the world bear witness, there will be no regrets. It can even be said that you respect the saints and hope that they bear witness to represent your true love for junior sister Fanning. But you, because of your desire to fight, have delayed the auspicious time to worship the heavens. Yi Qinghan looked at Xia Jiulong and sneered, I am a saint. Why would I fight with an ant who can't differentiate right from wrong? Both of you, come at me together. If I lose, you can say whatever you want. If I win, there's no need to say anything. Xia Jiulong's eyes flashed with killing intent. But he couldn't afford to lose face by teaming up against one person in front of everyone. Today is the day of Saint He's coronation. I won't bicker with you. If you miss today, I will teach you a lesson, Xia Jiulong said coldly. Yi Qinghan sneered and pointed at Xia Jiulong. If you don't dare to fight, then scram. As for Gui Shenxi, he can either kneel down and apologize to Saint He or die. There is no third option. Don't think that just because you have a great saint behind you that you can be arrogant and ignore the might of a saint. Killing a great saint's disciple. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Even Xia Hohe couldn't stay calm. He didn't want Yi Qinghan to provoke such a huge karma because of him. He hurriedly stood up and said, "Sect Master Yi, let's forget about it. There's still an hour before the auspicious time to worship the heavens. I don't care anymore. The heavens want to worship the heavens, so let's end it here." Yi Qinghan's cold light pierced through the void. He stared at Gui Shenxi behind Xia Jiulong and asked coldly, "Gui Shenxi, do you know your wrongs?" Gui Shenxi's hand was twisted. He had been crippled by Yi Qinghan's saint technique and the ancient city's momentum. He hadn't been able to use his cultivation. He struggled to stand up, his eyes full of viciousness. Gui Shenxi's breathing was rapid and his face was pale. The black divine sword in his hand was stabbed into the ground. He wanted to resist but didn't dare because Yi Qinghan's saint technique had reached great perfection. He was no different from a saint, just not in the saint realm. Gui Shenxi ignored Yi Qinghan and faced Xia Hoha, kneeling on one knee and saying sincerely, "Saint He, this junior was too eager to court your love. This junior knows his wrongs." This apology saved the Xiaho sacred ground's face. Xia Hoha's expression also changed. Since Gui Shenxi had apologized, he couldn't pursue the matter any further. He went with the flow and said, "Young people don't know their place. This saint can't take it to heart. This matter ends here." Yi Qinghan looked at Xia Jiulong and Gui Shenxi. He didn't want to take action this time, but he had to. Seeing that the matter was settled, he bowed slightly to the saints and quietly left. Everyone had decided in their hearts that Xia Jiulong might not be the first among the younger generation. Fan Yin was the most excited. He took a deep breath and looked at Yi Qinghan's back as he left. He put away the string of strings and turned to leave. The audience ceremony had been delayed. Xiaho Supreme announced that the ceremony would begin immediately. Xia Hoha stood up and raised his cup to toast the heavens. Everyone raised their cups in unison. Everyone in the Kuang sect was sincere and determined. They all wanted to be blessed by the heavens. The saint technique was 1 in 10,000. But what if they were chosen? Chapter 21:19. Yi Qinghan left. He didn't participate in the heaven veneration ceremony because he knew that the fortune he had obtained was already the best. There was no point in staying any longer. He might as well stand at the first-person point of view and observe the expressions of the heroes of the world. It was the first time for many of the Kuang sect members to participate, so they were looking forward to it. Jiang Jingtian and Gu Qingyu did not get any benefits the first time they participated. If they could not get anything this time, their fates would be sealed. Becoming a saint would be their end. Ghost Shenxi's face was full of unwillingness. He thought he could come here to show off, but he had only been arrogant for a while before his face was slapped swollen by Yi Qinghan. However, he was glad that today was Xiaoho's audience ceremony and heaven worship ceremony. Otherwise, Yi Qinghan would not care whether he was a descendant of the supreme sage or not. Xia Jiulong took a deep breath. It was not that he did not want to fight, but he could not afford to lose face. Since Xia Jiulong didn't make a move, the battle had to end. Thus, the heaven-worshipping ceremony began. There was no need for the audience. However, Xia Hoha didn't lose face because Yi Qinghan had earned it back. The ghost Shenxi knelt on one knee and apologized. Yi Qinghan stood on a tall building, looking down at the world. He handed Shui Lin a wine cup, then took out a jar of wine and said in a low voice, "The ceremony is very important. Although the heavens are heartless and the great path is traceless, the heavens are still there, and the great path is watching the world. Raise your cup to the heavens, and what you get will depend on the will of the heavens." Shui Lin nodded seriously. She took the full cup and raised it above her head, looking at Xia Hoha expectantly. Xia Hoha stood up, raised his cup to the heavens, and said respectfully, "Thank the heavens for recognizing me. I have cultivated for more than 1,000,000 years and have officially become a saint. This first cup of wine is to the heavens." Whoosh! The wine spilled out, drawing a beautiful arc in the air. First, to the heavens. Everyone splashed the wine respectfully. Second, to the great path. Xia Hoha raised his cup again, and everyone followed. Even a saint would not dare to blaspheme the ceremony. Third, to the ancient capital of Xiahoha. Xiahoha bowed respectfully to the ancient capital, his face full of respect. Whoosh! The ancient city seemed to have come to life. It was dignified and heavy, and the vicissitudes of time covered the world. Golden light enveloped it, and it was as if the aura of a saint had erupted. All the spirits followed, and so did Xue Lin. She spilled the wine in her cup, and her eyes were full of respect. However, there were also many doubts in the corners of her eyes, and even some resentment. If worshipping the heavens is useful, why was my Daluo astral realm razed to the ground and all living beings exterminated? Xue Lin was not reconciled. She was also very confused. What was the use of this ceremony? At this moment, light radiated in all directions. Holy light bathed the entire Xiahou ancient capital and the area outside the city. The further one went, the dimmer the light became. The heavens bestowed opportunities. Everyone had their own opportunities. Fate was determined by the heavens. But Xue Lin's clear eyes dimmed. She didn't get anything. It was as if God was punishing her for disrespecting God. Yi Qinghan glanced at Lian Xue's face from the corner of his eyes. His vigorous face revealed a trace of helplessness, and a trace of sadness flashed through his eyes. This girl's temperament was still too simple. How could the heavens care about everything? Everything had its order and cause. At this moment, dragons and phoenixes danced in the sky. Strange phenomena appeared at the same time. The sun, the moon, and the stars appeared together in the Milky Way. Everyone fell silent. Everyone was comprehending the blessing from the heavens. Some were ecstatic, some were gloomy, and some were shocked. Joy, anger, sorrow, and joy were all different. Yi Qinghan's divine sense and eyes captured everyone's expressions. The corner of his mouth curled up slightly as if he could see through everyone's minds. The insane sex expressions were not bad. It seemed that their opportunities were not small. Finally, Yi Qinghan stared at Emperor Feng and Gu Qingyu. The two of them didn't like to show their emotions, but at this moment, they were both shocked and ecstatic. This heaven-bestowed opportunity must have made them unable to remain calm. Yi Qinghan had never doubted Gu Qingyu and Emperor Feng's talents. They only needed opportunities. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and clenched his fists. He continued to search for the insane sex expressions. Di Long Tian, Jiang Jing Tian, Li Feng, everyone's expressions represented joy. He couldn't help but nod. It seems that the insane sex opportunity has come. I planted the seed and let Xiahou he become a saint. In the end, Xiahou he started the ceremony and bestowed the best results to the insane sect. The order of cause and effect in this world is really mysterious. Yi Qinghan sighed softly. He couldn't understand the trajectory of this world. Half a day later, Xiahou he's divine light dissipated. His aura was more restrained. The pressure was invisible, but it made the saints feel pressured. Xiahou he stood up and bowed to the people, thanking them for coming to pray. All the people knelt down, not daring to accept the saint's greeting. Chess Venerable smiled. He wasn't jealous of Xiahou he's opportunity. He only admired him from the bottom of his heart. For someone who had just become a saint to have such achievements, he must be qualified to bear this fruit. The two young men next to Chess Venerable bowed and left without alerting anyone. Yi Qinghan looked at the two young men and was curious about their identities. He was even more curious about why the Chess Venerable was so close to them. They must be related to the Nightwalker judgment. Although I can't feel their true strength, I can imagine that if they use all their strength, they can definitely be compared to Gue Shensi. They might even be on par with me. Yi Qinghan looked at the back of the young men and didn't ask too much. The Chess Venerable didn't enter the insane sex courtyard, which meant that he was willing to keep secrets for himself. So, he should keep secrets for him too. Just as everyone was about to leave, Gue Shensi couldn't take this lying down. He raised his head and glared at Yi Qinghan's loft. Yi Qinghan, the day my godly ancestor comes out of seclusion is the day you die. I will ask for the great sage's decree to kill you. Boom. He didn't hide his roar at all. Everyone heard it. Yi Qinghan didn't hide his figure. He stood on the tall pavilion and looked down at everyone. He looked at Gui Shenxi's ferocious face with a smile. He didn't ask for anything and didn't even have a trace of anger. It was as if he had really become a saint. "I'll wait for you," Yi Qinghan replied calmly, "but remember, the next time you see Senior Sister Fan, please stay away and don't disturb her. This is your promise and the rule I set for you." His voice was calm, but it was filled with determination and order. It didn't allow Gui Shenxi to disobey. His deep voice pierced through the clouds and traveled thousands of miles. Everyone could hear it. Gulp. Gui Shenxi's eyes were filled with anger. He turned to look at Xia Jiulong. It was all because of Xia Jiulong that he went for wool and came home shorn. Was Xia Jiulong not going to do anything now? Xia Jiulong opened his 9-dragon fan and the dragon's aura was fully displayed. The golden dragon swam around his saint dragon robe. He took a step forward and said, "Since the heaven-worshipping ceremony is over, I accept your challenge. If you win, you set the rules. If you lose, I will set the rules." Xia Jiulong had declared war in front of all the saints. Back then, after the chess saints' heaven worship ceremony, the two of them had fought. However, at that time, Yi Qinghan's strength was far inferior to Xia Jiulong's. Now, Yi Qinghan might not necessarily lose to him. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.